What if everything you thought you knew about history was incomplete? Picture this, a hand-carved object, buried for thousands of years, suddenly unearthed in a place it shouldn't be. It's made of materials no ancient civilization should have possessed, bearing markings that match no known language. This isn't science fiction, it's real. Scattered across the globe, hidden in museum vaults or half-forgotten excavation sites, there are artifacts that defy logic, challenge timelines, and whisper secrets of civilizations lost to time. These aren't just curiosities, they're enigmas that force us to rethink the very fabric of human history. From the moment the first strange relic was discovered, scholars have been left scratching their heads. How could a 2,000-year-old battery exist in Mesopotamia? Why does a medieval map depict Antarctica without ice centuries before modern explorers found it? These aren't isolated oddities. There are 48 such relics, each more baffling than the last, each a piece of a puzzle we're only beginning to assemble. Some hint at advanced technologies far ahead of their time. Others suggest cross-continental connections that history books swear couldn't have happened. And then there are those that simply shouldn't exist at all. This journey isn't just about objects, it's about the stories they carry. Who made them? How were they used? And most hauntingly, why were they forgotten? As we explore these relics, we're not just digging into the past, we're peering through cracks in time, catching glimpses of worlds that might have been. So suspend what you think you know, because by the end of this, history won't feel like a settled record. It'll feel like a mystery waiting for you to solve it. Ready to question everything? Let's begin. Buried beneath the waves for 2,000 years off the coast of a tiny Greek island, the Antikythera Mechanism was discovered not by archaeologists, but by sponge divers in 1901. At first glance, it appeared to be little more than a corroded lump of bronze until researchers realized it housed an intricate system of interlocking gears, each precisely calibrated to track the movements of celestial bodies. This wasn't just an ancient calendar. It could predict solar eclipses, chart the positions of planets, and even account for irregularities in the moon's orbit, a feat of engineering that wouldn't be matched until the mechanical clocks of 14th century Europe. The sheer sophistication of the device forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How did the ancient Greeks, working without precision tools or modern mathematics, achieve such technical mastery? The mechanism's gears bear tooth counts that correspond to complex astronomical cycles, like the Saros cycle for eclipses, knowledge that historians once believed emerged centuries later. Some researchers speculate it might be the lone surviving artifact of a broader tradition of advanced machinery, perhaps inspired by even earlier lost technologies. Others argue it was a one-of-a-kind marvel, a testament to the genius of Hellenistic inventors like Archimedes, whose legendary war machines and planetariums were said to astonish his contemporaries. But here's the real mystery. If this technology existed, why did it vanish for over 1,000 years? The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a haunting outlier, a glimpse of what could have been. Imagine a world where such devices proliferated, where ancient engineers built upon this knowledge instead of losing it. Would the scientific revolution have come sooner? Or was this mechanism a dead end, a brilliant flash in the pan that later civilizations simply couldn't replicate? What's undeniable is that the Antikythera Mechanism shatters our assumptions about the past. It's not just a relic, it's a challenge forcing us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient innovation. Every gear, every inscription whispers the same tantalizing possibility. Maybe we've underestimated the technological ambitions of those who came before us. And if they could achieve this, what else might have been possible? The Baghdad battery sits quietly in a museum display, looking deceptively simple, just a clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod. But this unassuming artifact, unearthed near modern-day Iraq in the 1930s, holds a shocking possibility. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or wine, it functions as a primitive galvanic cell, capable of producing a small electric current. That's right, a 2,000-year-old battery. The implications are staggering. If this was indeed its purpose, it means ancient Mesopotamians may have tinkered with electricity over a millennium before scientists like Alessandro Volta invented the battery in the early 19th century. Replicas of the Baghdad battery have been tested, generating enough voltage to electroplate objects, a technique used to coat metals with thin layers of gold or silver. Some speculate it could explain the mysteriously consistent gilding on ancient jewelry, long assumed to have been crafted through painstaking manual methods. But not everyone is convinced. Skeptics argue that if these were truly batteries, why have so few been found? And why is there no written record or additional artifacts suggesting widespread use? Alternative theories propose the jars held sacred scrolls, their metal components merely decorative. Others suggest they were used in religious ceremonies, perhaps to deliver mild shocks as part of rituals, creating the illusion of divine power. What's fascinating is how this single artifact splits historians into two camps. One sees it as evidence of lost scientific ingenuity, a flicker of advanced knowledge snuffed out by time. The other views it as an accidental marvel, a quirk of chemistry misinterpreted by modern minds, yet the mystery lingers. If these were batteries who taught the ancients to harness electricity, was it independent experimentation, or could they have stumbled upon knowledge from an even older, forgotten civilization? The Baghdad battery doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress, it dares us to reconsider how much we truly know about the innovative spirit of the ancient world. Hidden away in the vaults of Yale University's Voynich Library lies a book unlike any other, a 200-page puzzle wrapped in vellum, filled with looping, alien script and illustrations of plants that don't exist. This is the Voynich Manuscript, a 15th-century artifact that has defied translation for over 500 years. Its pages burst with strange diagrams, naked women bathing in green liquid, celestial charts with unfamiliar constellations, and roots that twist into humanoid shapes. But the real enigma is the text itself, a flowing cipher of unknown characters that has resisted every attempt at decoding, from Renaissance scholars to modern supercomputers. What makes the Voynich manuscript so maddening is its tantalizing familiarity. The handwriting looks deliberate, even elegant, suggesting a real language rather than random scribbles. Statistical analysis reveals patterns consistent with linguistic structure, word repetitions, sentence lengths, even what appear to be punctuation marks. Yet no one has ever matched its symbols to any known alphabet, living or dead. In 2017, artificial intelligence was thrown at the problem, scanning the text for hidden grammatical rules. The result, the AI confirmed the manuscript follows linguistic principles, but one's completely alien to any documented human language. Theories abound, each more intriguing than the last. Could it be an elaborate medieval hoax crafted to dupe a wealthy patron? The precision of the script and the sheer volume of work make this seem unlikely. Who would invest years creating a fake language with no audience to appreciate it? Others propose it's a lost tongue, perhaps from a vanished culture or a deliberately constructed code meant for elite circles. Then there are the wilder ideas that it's a transcription of hallucinogenic visions, an attempt to record an unknown botanical science, or even a message from something beyond our world. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the Voynich manuscript represents knowledge we've simply forgotten. Its botanical drawings, once dismissed as fantasy, have been compared to real plants under microscope-like magnification, their details too precise for pure imagination. Could this be the surviving fragment of a once advanced understanding of nature, later erased by time or persecution? Every page seems to whisper secrets just beyond our grasp, a reminder that history isn't a fixed story. It's a mosaic with missing pieces, some of which we may never recover. For now, the Voynich manuscript remains a riddle without an answer, a book that invites us to stare into the abyss of the unknown. It challenges not just our ability to decode it, but our very assumptions about what the past thought, knew, or dared to imagine. And so it sits, patiently waiting for the right mind, the right key, or perhaps a future where its mysteries finally make sense. Deep in the sands of Saqqara, within a tomb untouched for over 2,000 years, archaeologists uncovered a small wooden artifact that would ignite debates for decades to come. Known as the Sacara bird, this delicate figurine bears an uncanny resemblance to a modern aircraft, complete with sleek, tapered wings and a tailfin that looks engineered for stability in flight. Discovered alongside burial offerings from around 200 BCE, it's easy to dismiss it as a child's toy or a symbolic representation of a bird. But when aerodynamics experts examined its design, they made a startling discovery. The proportions of its wings aren't just decorative, they're functionally capable of generating lift. Replicas built to match the Sacara bird's dimensions have been tested in wind tunnels, and the results are undeniable. With a slight adjustment to the angle of its wings, the model can glide effortlessly through the air, mimicking the flight patterns of modern gliders. This isn't a crude approximation of a bird's shape. It's a precision-crafted object that follows principles of aerodynamics we associate with 20th century aviation. So how could ancient artisans, working centuries before the scientific study of flight, have stumbled upon such an advanced design? One theory suggests the Sacara bird might be a scaled-down prototype, a proof of concept for larger, functional gliders. Proponents of this idea point to ancient Egyptian myths that speak of flying machines like the legendary heavenly boats described in temple inscriptions. Could these stories be more than metaphor? Skeptics counter that without evidence of full-scale aircraft or propulsion systems, the figurine remains an intriguing anomaly, perhaps a ceremonial object or even a weather vane. Yet the precision of its form lingers in the mind, hinting at knowledge that shouldn't exist in that era. Then there's the unsettling question of inspiration. Did the carver observe real flying machines, or was this shape the product of trial and error? Some researchers propose the design could have been influenced by nature, mimicking the flight of certain birds like falcons, which were sacred to the Egyptians. Others wonder if it reflects lost experimentation, ancient scholars tinkering with flight long before recorded history caught up. What's undeniable is that the Sacara bird forces us to reconsider the innovative spirit of the ancient world. It stands as a silent challenge to our assumptions, a reminder that the past might hold secrets we've yet to fully uncover. Whether a ritual object, a toy, or something far more extraordinary, it dares us to imagine a history where humanity's reach extended not just across the earth, but into the skies above. High in the remote mountains of China's Bayan Karaula region, a discovery in 1938 would spark one of the most enduring mysteries of the 20th century. Hundreds of stone discs, each roughly the size of a dinner plate, lay buried in a cave system, but these weren't ordinary rocks. Their surfaces were carved with impossibly precise spiral grooves, radiating outward like tiny vinyl records. And etched along those grooves, a series of microscopic symbols unlike anything seen before, resembling a script caught between hieroglyphs and an unknown alien language. These are the Dropa stones, artifacts that some believe hold the key to humanity's earliest encounter with beings not of this world. According to local legends, the discs tell the story of a group called the Dropa, descendants of otherworldly visitors who crash-landed in the mountains 12,000 years ago. Stranded and unable to repair their craft, they supposedly integrated with the local tribes, leaving behind these stone records as a testament to their arrival. When researchers analyzed the discs in the 1960s, they claimed the stones contained traces of cobalt and other metals arranged in unusual crystalline patterns, as if manufactured rather than naturally formed. Even stranger, some reported that the script, when translated, described spacecraft descending from clouds and a people not of the Earth. But here's where the mystery deepens. Almost all physical evidence of the Dropa stones has vanished. The original research team's notes were lost, and only a handful of blurry photographs remain. Skeptics argue the discs were nothing more than ceremonial objects or ancient tools, their spiral grooves created by primitive drilling techniques. The so-called translations, they say, were likely imaginative interpretations of weathered carvings, if not outright fabrications. After all, no reputable linguist has ever verified the existence of the Dropa language, yet the stone's defenders counter with a compelling detail. The local Tsedem people who inhabit the region have oral traditions that speak of small, frail ancestors with large eyes and yellow-skinned beings who came from the stars. Could this be pure coincidence, or is it eerie corroboration of the disc's alleged message? Without the original stones to study, we're left with tantalizing fragments, a puzzle missing its most crucial pieces. What makes the Dropa stones so fascinating isn't just the question of their origin. It's the way they force us to grapple with the limits of our historical record. If genuine, they'd upend not just our understanding of ancient technology, but of humanity's place in the cosmos. Yet if they're hoaxes or misidentified artifacts, their persistence in popular culture reveals something equally profound: our enduring hunger to believe there's more to our past than what's written in textbooks. Either way, the Dropa stones remind us that history isn't just about facts, it's about the stories we tell, the mysteries we chase, and the possibility that somewhere, buried deep in the earth or hidden in plain sight, there's proof we're not alone. Nestled in a quiet corner of a Texas museum, the London hammer sits encased in glass, a simple tool with an impossible backstory. Discovered in 1936 along the banks of the Red Creek, this iron hammer was found embedded inside a chunk of rock dated to over 400 million years old. That's right, a man-made object, sealed within stone from an era when dinosaurs hadn't even evolved, let alone humans. The hammer's wooden handle had even begun the process of fossilization, merging with the surrounding stone as if it had been there for eons. The implications are staggering. If the dating is accurate, this tool predates modern humans by hundreds of millions of years. So how does an iron hammer end up in rock from the Devonian period, long before any known civilization could have forged metal? Supporters of fringe theories argue it's evidence of time travelers leaving artifacts behind or proof of an advanced prehistoric civilization wiped clean from history. Others suggest the hammer might belong to a forgotten human society that achieved metallurgy far earlier than we've ever documented. But mainstream geologists offer a different explanation, one just as fascinating if less sensational. They propose the hammer wasn't actually trapped in ancient rock, but instead became encased in a much younger mineral deposit. Limestone, for example, can form relatively quickly under the right conditions, hardening around objects in mere centuries rather than millennia. If the hammer was lost or discarded a few hundred years ago, natural processes could have cemented it into stone that merely appears ancient. Yet even this theory doesn't fully explain the hammer's peculiar metallurgy. Tests revealed the iron is unusually pure, lacking the slag typical of 19th century smithing techniques, raising the question of who could have crafted it, even in more recent times. What makes the London hammer so compelling isn't just the debate over its origin. It's the way it forces us to question the reliability of our own methods. Geological dating isn't infallible, and history is filled with gaps we've yet to bridge. Could this be a genuine anomaly, a relic that slipped through the cracks of time? Or is it a quirk of nature, a coincidence that challenges our assumptions simply because we haven't found the right explanation yet? Either way, the hammer lingers as a silent provocation, a reminder that the past might hold surprises we're not prepared to accept. It doesn't just defy timelines, it dares us to admit how much we still don't know about the story of our planet and our place within it. The Piri Reis map shouldn't exist, at least, not as we know it. Crafted in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragment of a larger world map depicts coastlines with eerie precision, including the most baffling detail of all, the northern edge of Antarctica, shown not as a frozen wasteland but as a landmass free of ice, its contours matching modern seismic surveys of the continent beneath its glacial shell. Here's the problem: Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until 1820, and its ice cap formed millions of years ago. So how could a 16th century mapmaker have known what lay hidden beneath millennia of snow? The map's creator claimed he compiled it from 20 older sources, including charts dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. Some researchers speculate these lost references might have originated with an advanced seafaring civilization, perhaps the Phoenicians, whose maritime prowess was legendary, or even a prehistoric culture wiped from memory. The map's accuracy isn't limited to Antarctica. It also pinpoints the Amazon River's course before European exploration and includes mountain ranges in the Andes that wouldn't be documented for centuries. These details suggest access to geographic knowledge far beyond the era's capabilities. Skeptics offer alternative explanations. Could the land labeled as Antarctica actually be a distorted version of South America, a common error in early cartography? The map does blend known coasts with speculative geography, a practice of the time. Yet the coastline's uncanny alignment with subglacial topography keeps the mystery alive. Even more perplexing are the map's longitudinal calculations, which would have required precise timekeeping instruments technology that hadn't been invented yet. Then there's the question of method. Without satellites or aerial surveys, how could anyone have charted landmasses with such accuracy? One theory points to ancient astronomers who might have used celestial navigation to plot landforms from high altitudes. Another suggests the map preserves fragments of knowledge from a pre-Ice Age civilization, survivors of a cataclysm who passed down their charts through generations. What's undeniable is that the Piri Reis map forces us to confront the gaps in our historical narrative. It's not just an artifact, it's a riddle wrapped in vellum, a testament to the possibility that our ancestors knew far more about the world than we've ever given them credit for. Whether a product of lost genius or a mosaic of forgotten voyages, the map whispers a tantalizing truth. History's pages might be missing entire chapters, and somewhere, buried in time, there could be answers waiting to be found. Stretching across the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines form one of archaeology's most mesmerizing puzzles. These enormous geoglyphs, some stretching over 600 feet, depict everything from hummingbirds and spiders to intricate geometric patterns, all etched into the desert floor with such precision that their full beauty can only be appreciated from high above. Created by the ancient Nazca people between 500 BC and 500 CE, these designs have endured for millennia, preserved by the region's dry, windless climate. But their endurance raises a haunting question. Why would a civilization with no known means of flight create art meant to be seen exclusively from the sky? The scale of the Nazca lines defies easy explanation. Some figures, like the 300-foot-long condor, are so large that their outlines can't be discerned from ground level. To achieve such accuracy, the Nazca likely used simple tools, wooden stakes and ropes, to plot out their designs, scaling up smaller models through a grid system. Yet, even with these methods, the consistency of the lines is astonishing, with margins of error as minimal as a few inches over miles of terrain. How did they maintain such precision without aerial guidance? Some researchers suggest they might have used rudimentary hot air balloons or kites to check their progress, though no direct evidence of such technology has been found. Theories about the line's purpose are as varied as the glyphs themselves. One prevailing idea ties them to astronomy, proposing they functioned as a giant celestial calendar, aligning with solstices or constellations to mark agricultural cycles. Another theory posits they were sacred pathways, walked during rituals to invoke rain, a precious resource in the desert. Then there's the more controversial notion: could they have been signals or landing markers for visitors from the skies? While this idea captivates the imagination, mainstream scholars point to the lack of corroborating evidence, emphasizing the Nazca's deep spiritual connection to nature as a more plausible inspiration. What's often overlooked is the sheer audacity of the Nazca's vision. These weren't idle doodles, they were monumental communal projects requiring generations of labor and coordination. The lines crisscross the landscape with purpose, suggesting a shared cultural language we've yet to fully decipher. Recent discoveries of smaller, related geoglyphs nearby hint that the Nazca might have been expanding their canvas over centuries, refining their techniques as they went. The Nazca lines don't just challenge our understanding of ancient technology, they force us to reconsider the limits of human creativity. In a world without satellites or drones, the Nazca found a way to leave their mark on the Earth so enduringly that it still speaks to us today. Whether as star maps, prayers to the gods, or something even more mysterious, these desert etchings remind us that the past is never as simple as it seems, and sometimes the most profound messages are written not in words, but in the land itself. Deep in the mineral-rich hills of California's Coso Mountains, a discovery in 1961 would ignite one of the most heated debates in alternative archaeology. What began as a routine rockhounding expedition turned surreal when collectors cracked open what appeared to be an ordinary geode, only to find a cylindrical metal object embedded inside, its threaded end unmistakably resembling a modern spark plug. But here's the twist: the surrounding rock was dated at roughly 500,000 years old, a time when Homo sapiens hadn't even evolved, let alone mastered metallurgy or internal combustion. The so-called Coso artifact quickly became a lightning rod for controversy. To ancient astronaut theorists, it was smoking gun evidence of advanced prehistoric technology or extraterrestrial visitation. The object's intricate design, complete with a ceramic insulator and a rusted metal shaft, seemed too precise to be a natural formation. X-rays revealed additional internal structures that mirrored the components of early 20th century spark plugs, fueling speculation that it might be a relic from a lost civilization or even a time traveler's misplaced tool. But geologists offer a different interpretation. They point to the region's unique geology, where mineral-rich waters can deposit concentric layers around ordinary objects, creating the illusion of extreme age. A 19th century mining tool or early industrial debris, they argue, could have become encased in a hard mineral shell within decades under the right conditions. The spark plug might actually be a mundane object like a rusted valve stem or broken machinery part, its familiar shape a trick of pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist. Yet neither side's explanation fully satisfies. If the artifact is a spark plug, why was it found in such an isolated location, far from any known roads or settlements of its era? And if it's purely geological, how do we account for the uncanny precision of its features? The mystery deepens when considering similar finds worldwide, objects like the Ayod wedge or the Wolfsegg iron cube, each seemingly out of place in their respective time layers. What makes the Coso artifact so compelling isn't just the question of its origin, but what it reveals about our relationship with the unknown. It's a Rorschach test for belief systems. Some see proof of forgotten histories, others a cautionary tale about misinterpreting nature's artistry. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a reminder that the Earth still holds pockets of mystery, where the line between natural wonder and human ingenuity blurs in ways we're only beginning to understand. For now, the artifact remains an enigma wrapped in stone, challenging us to keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay open to the possibility that history's timeline might be far more elastic than we've been taught. Whether a product of ancient genius, geological mimicry, or something even stranger, it stands as a silent sentinel at the border of the known and the unknowable. Locked away in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, a single piece of linen has captivated scholars, believers, and skeptics for centuries. The Shroud of Turin is no ordinary textile. Its surface bears the faint, ghostly imprint of a man's body, front and back, with wounds consistent with Roman crucifixion. To millions, this is the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, a sacred relic imbued with divine significance. To scientists, it's an enigma wrapped in mystery, a puzzle that defies easy explanation. The shroud's image is unlike anything created by human hands. Unlike paintings or dyes, the coloration isn't applied to the fabric's surface. Instead, it's a subtle change in the linen fibers themselves, as if the cloth was somehow exposed to a brief, intense burst of energy. No brushstrokes, no pigments, no signs of artistic technique, just a hauntingly precise negative image that, when photographed in 1998, revealed startling positive details resembling a human face. Even more perplexing, forensic analysis shows the wounds match historical accounts of crucifixion with eerie accuracy. Lacerations consistent with a Roman flagrum, a puncture in the wrist, not the palm, as often depicted in medieval art, and even evidence of a post-mortem chest wound. Then there's the question of age. In 1988, radiocarbon testing dated the shroud to between 1260 and 1390, seemingly debunking its authenticity as a first-century relic. But controversy erupted almost immediately. Critics pointed out the tested sample came from a repaired edge, possibly contaminated by centuries of handling. Later studies noted the shroud's unique weave matches textiles found in ancient Judea, not medieval Europe. Some researchers even detected traces of pollen native to the Jerusalem area, embedded in fibers older than the carbon dating suggested. Theories about its origin range from the devout to the defiant. Some propose it's the result of a rare chemical reaction, perhaps a decomposing body releasing vapors that altered the cloth. Others suggest it could be an early example of photographic technology, created using a camera obscura and light-sensitive compounds. And then there's the most controversial idea, that the image was produced by a burst of radiant energy during the resurrection itself, a physical manifestation of a moment beyond scientific understanding. What's undeniable is that the shroud refuses to fit neatly into any category. It's a collision of faith and forensics, a relic that challenges believers and skeptics alike to confront the limits of their certainty. Whether divine artifact or medieval masterpiece, Its power lies in the questions it forces us to ask, not just about the past, but about how we define proof, how we reconcile science and spirituality, and why, after 6 centuries of scrutiny, this fragile piece of fabric still holds the world's gaze. Buried in the soil of a Native American settlement in Maine, a tiny silver coin no larger than a thumbnail quietly appended centuries of historical consensus. Known as the Maine penny, this artifact, a Norse coin minted between 1065 and 1080, was discovered in 1957 amidst shell heaps and tools belonging to the Penobscot people. Its presence on the North American coast, hundreds of years before Columbus, raises a tantalizing question. How did an 11th century Viking relic end up so far from home? The coin's design offers undeniable clues. Struck during the reign of Norwegian King Olaf Kyrre, it bears the distinctive cross and chevron patterns typical of Norse currency from that era. But here's what's extraordinary. The only other coins like it have been found scattered across Scandinavia and the British Isles, remnants of Viking trade networks. For this one to surface in Maine suggests a connection far more profound than a stray object lost over time. It aligns eerily with the Vinland sagas, medieval Icelandic texts describing Leif Eriksson's expeditions to a land west of Greenland, a place they called Vinland, now widely believed to be Newfoundland's Elance Ox Meadows. If the Norse reached Canada, could their influence have stretched further south, perhaps through trade with indigenous peoples? Skeptics argue the coin might have arrived through later European trade, dropped by a fisherman or merchant centuries after its minting. But the archaeological context complicates that theory. The Maine penny was found in layers of sediment dated to the 1200s, alongside artifacts from the Penobscot's daily life. No other European materials were present. This suggests the coin circulated among native communities long before sustained contact with colonists began. Could it have been passed hand to hand over generations, a curiosity traded along indigenous networks stretching from the Canadian Maritimes to New England? The implications are staggering. If the Maine penny wasn't a lone accident but evidence of deliberate exchange, it rewrites the story of transatlantic contact. Imagine Norse traders bartering with Native Americans, exchanging goods and ideas centuries before history books claim such meetings occurred. Physical evidence is sparse, but tantalizing hints linger, like the Norse-style spindle wall found in Alaska or the enigmatic Newport Tower in Rhode Island, whose origins remain hotly debated. Yet the Maine penny's true power lies in its ambiguity. It's a whisper from the past that refuses to be ignored, yet resists easy interpretation. Whether proof of fleeting contact or a relic of deeper connections lost to time, it challenges us to see history not as a fixed narrative, but as a web of possibilities waiting to be untangled. One thing is certain: this small silver disc is a testament to humanity's restless curiosity, and the fact that our ancestors' journeys might have been far bolder than we ever imagined. In a quiet corner of rural Peru, nestled among the dusty hills of Ica, lies one of archaeology's most polarizing enigmas, the Ica stones. These aren't just ordinary rocks, they're intricately carved andesite slabs, thousands of them, each bearing images that defy conventional history. Humans performing open-heart surgery, telescopes pointed at distant galaxies, and most shockingly people living side by side with dinosaurs. The scenes are rendered with startling detail, as if the carvers had first-hand knowledge of creatures extinct for 65 million years. To dismiss them as mere curiosities would be easy, if not for one stubborn fact. The stone's weathered patina suggests they're far older than modern tools could explain. The controversy began in the 1960s when a local farmer claimed to have discovered the stones in a network of caves. Skeptics were quick to cry hoax, especially after a few artisans admitted to carving similar stones for tourists. But the sheer volume of genuine finds, over 15,000 documented stones, raises deeper questions. Many exhibit oxidation layers consistent with centuries of burial, and independent geologists have confirmed their surface weathering doesn't match recent carvings. Even more intriguing, the stone's iconography aligns with oral traditions from the region, where elders speak of a lost library of knowledge hidden beneath the earth. Could these stones be fragments of that forgotten archive? Then there's the content itself. Some depict medical procedures so advanced they border on the impossible figures, using tools resembling scalpels and forceps, operating on patients with anatomical accuracy that predates modern surgery by millennia. Others show celestial maps with constellations in positions they held thousands of years ago, suggesting astronomical observations passed down through generations. But it's the dinosaur imagery that captivates and unsettles the most. Creatures like Triceratops and Stegosaurs are rendered with uncanny precision, their postures and textures matching fossil evidence we've only uncovered in the last century. How could ancient artists have known these details? Mainstream archaeology insists the stones are modern fabrications, pointing to inconsistencies in their discovery narrative. Yet defenders counter with a haunting possibility. What if they're relics of a civilization that survived much longer than we thought, preserving memories of a time when humans and dinosaurs might have briefly overlapped? Or perhaps they're symbolic, blending myth with observation, a way to record encounters with giant, misunderstood creatures like mammoths or dragons, later misinterpreted. The Ica stones don't just challenge our timeline, they force us to confront how history gets written. If even a fraction of these carvings are genuine, they hint at a past far more complex and far stranger than we've dared to imagine. Whether elaborate hoax or fragmented truth, they remain a testament to humanity's unshakable urge to leave behind clues, to whisper across time that we were here, we saw, we wondered. And in that, they're as real as any artifact ever dug from the ground. High on the walls of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, a series of carvings shimmer with an eerie familiarity. Etched into the stone are bulb-shaped objects, their interiors coiled with what look like filaments, trailing into narrow bases that resemble modern electrical sockets. At the center of each bulb stretches a snake, its body aligned precisely where a glowing wire would be in an incandescent light. To some, these images are unmistakable. They depict ancient Egyptian light bulbs, proof that a civilization we associate with pyramids and papyrus might have harnessed artificial illumination over 2,000 years before Thomas Edison. The mainstream explanation leans toward symbolism. Egyptologists interpret the carvings as part of a larger mythological scene, showing the creation myth of the sun god Ra emerging from a lotus flower, an ancient metaphor for rebirth. The filaments are likely stylized serpents representing divine energy, and the bulbs could be symbolic containers for this sacred power. After all, the temple walls are covered in similar allegorical imagery, blending the physical and spiritual worlds. But here's where the debate ignites. Electrical engineers examining the carvings note their uncanny resemblance to Crookes tubes, early experimental light bulbs developed in the 19th century. The Dendera bulbs even feature what appear to be insulating supports and cables, details that seem too specific for pure mythology. Could the Egyptians have stumbled upon a form of electroplating or arc lighting? Proponents of this theory point to the absence of soot in certain underground chambers, like the crypts beneath Dendera, where torches or oil lamps would have left traces. They also highlight the Baghdad battery, another controversial artifact suggesting ancient experimentation with electricity. But skeptics counter with practicalities. Where are the wires, the power sources, or any written records describing such technology? Perhaps the most compelling middle ground lies in the ingenuity of ancient minds. The carvings might not depict literal light bulbs, but they could encode a deeper understanding of natural phenomena. Some researchers propose the snake in a bulb motif represents knowledge of bioelectrical properties, like the shocks produced by Nile catfish, which were used medicinally. Others see it as an abstract representation of auroras or plasma discharges, phenomena the Egyptians might have witnessed and ritualized. What makes the Dendera reliefs so mesmerizing isn't just the question of what they show, but how they reflect our own biases. We see them through the lens of modern technology, projecting our inventions onto the past. Yet the possibility remains that they're a rare glimpse of lost knowledge, a reminder that ancient civilizations observed, experimented, and innovated in ways we're still unraveling. Whether sacred art or schematic diagram, these carvings challenge us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient science and the humility required to admit how much we might never know. Rising abruptly from a rural field in Elbert County, Georgia, the stark gray slabs of the Georgia Guidestones stood like a modern-day stone henge until explosives reduced them to rubble in 2022. Erected in 1980 under mysterious circumstances, the monument consisted of 4 towering granite panels, each inscribed with 10 directives for humanity, translated into 8 languages ranging from English to Swahili. At first glance, the messages seemed almost idealistic. Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely. Unite humanity with a living new language. But beneath this veneer of utopian advice lurked a darker ambiguity that would fuel decades of speculation. Who commissioned these stones, and why did someone feel compelled to destroy them? The Guidestones' origins are as cryptic as their contents. A man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian approached a local granite company, claiming to represent a small group of loyal Americans who sought to leave guidance for future generations. He paid for the project in cash, vanished without a trace, and left no clues to his true identity. This secrecy, combined with the stone's apocalyptic overtones, made them a magnet for conspiracy theories. Some saw them as a blueprint for global depopulation, pointing to the first directive's call to reduce Earth's population by over 90%. Others interpreted them as the work of a secret society, perhaps the Rosicrucians or even extraterrestrials preparing humanity for collapse. The monument's alignment with celestial events, its slots and holes tracking the sun's solstices and equinoxes, only deepened the intrigue, suggesting a blend of occult symbolism and practical astronomy. Then came the destruction. In the early hours of July 6, 2022, explosions shattered one of the Guidestone's pillars. Authorities dismantled the rest days later, citing safety concerns. To some, the timing felt deliberate. The stones had recently become a flashpoint in political debates, vandalized with spray-painted slogans like "No New World Order." Was their demolition an act of vigilante justice or something more calculated? The lack of arrests or credible claims of responsibility left a vacuum quickly filled by wilder theories that shadowy elites had erased evidence of their plans or that the Guidestone's true purpose had been fulfilled. What lingers isn't just the mystery of who built them or why they fell. It's the unsettling question of how we interpret warnings dressed as wisdom. The Guidestone's directives walk a razor's edge between environmental pragmatism and dystopian control. Could they have been a sincere effort to preserve knowledge after catastrophe, like a modern-day Rosetta Stone for civilization? Or were they always a Rorschach test for our deepest fears about power, survival, and who gets to decide humanity's future? The stones may be gone, but their ghost lingers, a reminder that the line between prophecy and paranoia is often carved in the same unyielding granite. Hidden deep in the jungles of Costa Rica's Diquis Delta, hundreds of stone spheres lie scattered across the landscape like marbles dropped by giants. Ranging from the size of a baseball to over 8 feet in diameter, some weighing as much as 2 small cars, their surfaces are so flawlessly rounded that modern engineers struggle to explain how ancient artisans achieved such precision without metal tools or advanced measuring devices. Carved from gabbro, a volcanic rock as hard as granite, these spheres date back to a mysterious civilization that thrived between 600 and 1500 CE, leaving behind no written records, only these silent stone sentinels. The craftsmanship is nothing short of astonishing. Using nothing but stone hammers and abrasives, the creators shaped boulders into near-perfect spheres, with deviations of less than 2 centimeters in diameter comparable to the precision of industrial machining. Some spheres cluster in geometric patterns, aligning with celestial events or forming straight lines stretching for hundreds of meters. Others appear to mark burial sites or ceremonial grounds, their placement hinting at a purpose beyond mere decoration. But here's the real puzzle. Transporting these massive stones would have required ingenious engineering. The closest known quarries are miles away, across rivers and dense rainforest. How did they move them? Local legends speak of a magical substance that softened the rock, allowing it to be molded like clay, but science offers no such shortcuts. Then there's the question of meaning. Indigenous oral traditions describe the spheres as relics from the time of the gods, objects placed by celestial beings to guide humanity. Some researchers speculate they might have been astronomical tools, their alignments mapping solstices or constellations. Others propose they were status symbols, displays of power for a society that valued harmony and geometric perfection. But the most haunting theory suggests they're waypoints, markers for something lost to time, like landing sites or boundaries of a forgotten sacred geography. What's undeniable is their power to captivate. Unlike the pyramids or Stonehenge, these spheres lack obvious utility, which makes their existence all the more intriguing. Were they meant to communicate with the divine, to demonstrate a culture's mastery over nature? Or are they, as some fringe theorists suggest, remnants of an Atlantean legacy, physical proof of a technological knowledge we've yet to rediscover? The stones refuse to yield their secrets. Even after decades of study, no one can say for certain why they were made, or why so many were deliberately buried or moved in antiquity. Perhaps that's their true purpose, not to answer our questions, but to remind us that the past is full of voices we're still learning to hear. Standing before one of these perfect orbs, you can't help but feel the weight of time and the tantalizing possibility that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only wondered at. Buried beneath 20 feet of ancient sediment along the banks of Romania's Mureș River, a discovery in 1973 would shatter conventional timelines of human innovation. Workers excavating the site unearthed a wedge-shaped metal object alongside mastodon bones, a creature extinct for at least 11,000 years. At first glance, the artifact seemed unremarkable, coated in a thick layer of oxidation. But when scientists cleaned and analyzed it, they were stunned. The wedge was made of aluminum, a metal that wasn't smelted until the 1820s. Even more baffling, the surrounding sediment layer dated the object to 250,000 years old, a time when Homo sapiens hadn't even evolved, let alone mastered metallurgy. The composition of the Ayad artifact only deepens the enigma. Tests revealed an alloy consisting of 89% aluminum with traces of copper, zinc, and other metals, a blend resembling modern aerospace materials. The wedge's design is equally perplexing, with symmetrical grooves and a concave underside that suggest mechanical function, not natural formation. Some engineers speculate it could be part of a landing gear or excavation tool. Its wear patterns hinting at heavy use before being lost to time. But if that's true, who used it? And how did aluminum, which requires electrolysis to extract from bauxite ore, exist in an era when our ancestors were barely fashioning stone hand axes? Mainstream science offers cautious explanations. One theory posits the artifact is a fragment from a 20th century excavator or aircraft, somehow driven deep into ancient layers during construction work. Yet geologists counter that the sediment encasing the wedge showed no signs of disturbance. Its position alongside Pleistocene-era fossils appeared undisturbed for millennia. Another suggestion is that the object might be a rare natural metallic nodule, though aluminum almost never occurs in pure form in nature, and its alloy components defy this explanation. Then there are the more radical interpretations. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the artifact's aerodynamic shape, proposing it could be a piece of extraterrestrial technology left behind by visitors. Others wonder if it's evidence of a lost advanced civilization, one that achieved industrial feats before being wiped out by catastrophe. Intriguingly, local folklore speaks of sky gods who descended in fiery chariots, leaving behind mysterious relics, stories that now take on new resonance. What makes the Ayad artifact so compelling isn't just its impossible age or material. It's the way it exposes the fragility of our historical narratives. We assume progress is linear, that humanity climbed step by step from stone tools to spaceflight. But this unassuming wedge whispers a different possibility. That innovation might rise, collapse, and rise again in cycles we've yet to recognize. Whether a misplaced modern fragment or a genuine anomaly, it forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth: our past might be far stranger and far less settled than we've ever dared to admit. Carved into the sandstone hills of China's Zhejiang province, the Longyou Caves stretch beneath the earth like the hollowed bones of a forgotten giant. Discovered in 1992 by a curious villager draining a local pond, these caverns aren't natural formations. They're meticulously engineered spaces, each chamber large enough to swallow a modern stadium hole. Stepping inside feels like entering another world. The walls ripple with precise, parallel chisel marks, every groove spaced with such uniformity that they resemble machine-made patterns rather than hand tools. Yet carbon dating places their creation over 2,000 years ago, during China's Bronze Age, when historians insist no culture possessed the technology or the workforce to execute such a monumental project. The numbers alone defy belief. 36 caves have been uncovered so far, their total excavated volume exceeding 300,000 cubic feet. Each chamber mirrors the next in design, soaring ceilings supported by evenly spaced pillars, stepped platforms, and intricate drainage channels that still function flawlessly today. The precision is staggering. Angles between walls deviate by less than a degree, and surfaces are polished smooth, a feat requiring not just thousands of laborers, but master architects with advanced mathematical knowledge. Yet no records mention their construction, no tools have been found nearby, and not a single ancient text or legend hints at why a civilization would invest generations digging these colossal rooms. Theories abound, each more speculative than the last. Some archaeologists propose the caves were quarries, mined for their high-quality sandstone. But why carve such elaborate, symmetrical spaces when simpler pits would suffice? Others suggest they were secret military bunkers, though no weapons or artifacts have been discovered inside. Then there's the acoustics. Whispers in one corner carry clearly to the far end of the chambers, a phenomenon that's led to theories of ritual or ceremonial use. But the most haunting possibility is that the caves were never meant to be seen. Their entrances were deliberately hidden beneath layers of sediment, as if sealing away something the builders didn't want rediscovered. What truly unsettles researchers isn't just the scale of the Longyou Caves, but the implications of their existence. If Bronze Age societies could achieve this, what else might they have accomplished, and why did that knowledge vanish? The caves stand as a silent rebuke to our assumptions about ancient innovation, a reminder that history's ledger might be missing entire chapters. Were they the work of a lost dynasty, a practical project repurposed by later generations, or something far stranger, a footprint left by minds whose ambitions we've yet to fully comprehend? Unlike other ancient mysteries, the Longyou Caves offer no inscriptions, no artifacts, just the walls themselves, etched with questions we're only beginning to ask. They don't whisper their secrets, they shout them in the language of geometry and stone, daring us to reconsider what we think we know about the past. And until someone deciphers that language, they'll remain one of archaeology's most tantalizing riddles, a labyrinth without a map, waiting for the right mind to find its way in. Beneath the crystal-clear waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a structure so perplexing it blurs the line between natural wonder and ancient engineering. Rising from the ocean floor like a sunken fortress, the Yonaguni Monument is a massive terraced formation with flat plains, sharp 90-degree angles, and what appear to be staircases climbing its sides. Discovered in 1986 by a local diver, this underwater enigma stretches nearly 500 feet long and rises 80 feet from the seabed, a scale that dwarfs most known ancient ruins. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss it as a quirk of geology, a sandstone formation carved by millennia of tidal forces. But the longer you study its features, the harder it becomes to ignore the haunting precision of its design. The monument's most striking elements look unmistakably crafted by human hands: tower-like pillars, a triangular pool with perfectly straight edges, and a wide, flat platform resembling a ceremonial stage all suggest intentional construction. Even more compelling are the tool marks found along some surfaces, parallel grooves and indentations that mirror those left by ancient stone working techniques. Marine biologists point to the region's frequent seismic activity, arguing that tectonic shifts could have fractured the rock into these seemingly artificial shapes. But how does geology account for the two round holes drilled into one of the upper platforms, each precisely aligned as if to anchor a wooden post or statue? Or the symmetrical road that appears to connect different sections of the structure, dating the monument, only deepens the mystery. If human-made, it would have been constructed when sea levels were nearly 100 feet lower, placing its origins somewhere around 10,000 years ago during the last ice age. This timeline aligns eerily with legends from Okinawan folklore, which speak of a sunken city called Mu that vanished beneath the waves in a cataclysmic event. Could Yonaguni be its physical remnant? Mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, noting the absence of pottery, tools, or other artifacts that typically accompany ancient settlements. Yet in 2007, a team discovered what they believed to be a quarry site nearby, with stone blocks seemingly cut and abandoned mid-construction, as if the builders fled a sudden disaster. The debate over Yonaguni isn't just about rocks and water. It's a collision between two ways of seeing the past. One side sees a world where ancient civilizations achieved far more than we've credited them for, only to have their legacy erased by rising seas. The other sees the power of natural forces to mimic human artistry, reminding us that nature's patience can sculpt wonders beyond our imagination. but perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, a natural formation enhanced by human hands, a sacred site shaped by both tectonics and ritual. What's undeniable is the monument's power to captivate. Whether a geological marvel or a drowned relic of a forgotten people, it forces us to confront how little we know about humanity's early chapters. The ocean guards its secrets well, and Yonaguni stands as a silent sentinel at the border of history and myth, daring us to reconsider just how deep our past truly goes. Deep in the mines of South Africa's Ottosdal region, miners have unearthed objects that seem to defy the very laws of time, metallic spheres with uncannily precise grooves encircling their equators, buried in rock layers dating back an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years. These so-called Klerksdorp spheres vary in size from a marble to a baseball, their surfaces unnervingly smooth, their grooves so uniformly spaced they look machined. Yet they were found lodged in pyrophyllite deposits from a time when Earth's only life forms were single-celled microbes, a full 3 billion years before the first dinosaurs walked the planet. The sphere's composition only deepens the riddle. Made of hematite or wollastonite with traces of nickel and other metals, they exhibit a balance and symmetry that geology rarely produces unaided. Some are so perfectly weighted that they roll on their own when placed on a slight incline, as if engineered for motion. The grooves, often running in twin parallel lines around the circumference, show no signs of erosion or distortion, odd for objects subjected to billions of years of tectonic shifts and mineral pressures. Even stranger, when researchers cut one open, they found the interior material was bizarrely fibrous, with a sponge-like structure unlike any known natural mineral formation. Mainstream science insists the spheres are natural concretions, mineral accumulations that form around a nucleus, like pearls in an oyster. Pyrophyllite, the rock they're embedded in, is known to weather in spherical patterns, and some geologists argue the grooves could be the result of crystalline growth or sedimentation. But this explanation struggles to account for the precision of the grooves or the sphere's metallic alloys, which typically require smelting or refining processes. Then there's the more provocative theory that these spheres are relics of a lost industrial civilization, one that thrived and vanished long before humans existed. Proponents point to the sphere's resemblance to ball bearings or gyroscopic components, suggesting they might be fragments of ancient machinery. If true, it would mean Earth's history isn't the linear march from simplicity to complexity we assume, but a cycle of rises and collapses, with advanced cultures emerging and disappearing like waves on a shore. What makes the Klerksdorp spheres so unsettling isn't just their age or their form. It's the way they force us to confront the limits of our understanding. Geology can explain much, but not everything, and in that gap, questions linger. Are these spheres nature's oddities, proof of a geological process we've yet to fully grasp? Or are they something far stranger, silent witnesses to a chapter of Earth's story we've barely begun to read? For now, they sit in museum cases and private collections, polished and enigmatic, daring us to reconsider not just the past, but the very nature of time itself. Whether natural wonders or manufactured artifacts, they remind us that our planet's history is far stranger and far less settled than any textbook could ever capture. In the sun-scorched sands of China's Taklamakan Desert, a discovery in the 1980s sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Rows of mummies with striking European features, their flaxen hair still vibrant, their noses tall and narrow, their bodies clad in finely woven tartan and sturdy leather boots. These weren't recent interments. Carbon dating placed them at nearly 4,000 years old, a millennium and a half before the Silk Road connected east and west. The so-called Tarim mummies shouldn't exist here, in one of Asia's most remote and inhospitable deserts. Yet their presence whispers a forgotten chapter of human migration, one that rewrites our understanding of ancient cultural exchange. The mummy's preservation is nothing short of miraculous. The Taklamakan's arid climate and salty soil acted as a natural embalming agent, leaving their tattoos visible, their clothing intact, even the remnants of meals in their stomachs. But it's their attire that's most revealing. The woven woolens bear uncanny resemblance to Celtic tartans, while their boots mirror those found in Bronze Age Europe. One particularly famous mummy, the Beauty of Lulan, wears a felt hat and a woven cloak that could have been lifted straight from a Scandinavian bog burial. How did these styles cross continents so early? Linguistic clues only deepen the puzzle. The mummies were found near the Tarim Basin, a region later associated with the Tocharian people, an ancient culture that spoke an Indo-European language distantly related to Celtic and Germanic tongues. This suggests the mummies might be ancestors of the Tocharians, part of a vast, early migration from the steppes of Ukraine or Kazakhstan. But the journey would have been staggering, thousands of miles across mountains and deserts, with no clear evidence of the routes they took. Theories about their origins range from the plausible to the provocative. Some scholars propose they were nomadic herders, following grasslands that once stretched farther east before desertification locked them in the Tarim Basin. Others speculate they might have been traders or even mercenaries, hired by early Chinese dynasties. But the most tantalizing possibility is that they represent a lost branch of the Indo-European expansion, one that reached further east than we ever imagined, carrying their weaving techniques, their languages, and their customs into the heart of Asia. What's haunting is how abruptly their story seems to end. By the time the Silk Road flourished, the Tarim Basin's European-descended populations had largely vanished, assimilated or displaced by waves of migration from the east. The mummies stand as silent witnesses to a time when the world was far more interconnected than we assumed, when threads of culture stretched across continents long before official trade routes were etched into history. Their existence doesn't just challenge timelines, it forces us to reconsider how fluid ancient identities really were, and how much of our shared past still lies buried, waiting to be unearthed. Buried under the roots of a Minnesota poplar tree in 1898, a farmer named Olof Oman unearthed a slab of Greywacke sandstone that would ignite a century of fiery debate. The Kensington runestone, as it came to be known, bore a cryptic message carved in runes, a script used by medieval Scandinavians. Translated, it told of a group of Norse explorers who'd ventured inland from Vinland in 1362, leaving behind a blood-stained record of their fate. 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians on an exploration journey from Vinland. It read, before describing a brutal ambush, "We had camped by 2 skerries 1 day's journey north from this stone. We were out fishing one day. When we came home, we found 10 men red with blood and dead. Aviation save us from evil." If authentic, this wasn't just a relic, it was a smoking gun, proof that Vikings had penetrated deep into North America over a century before Columbus and left a record of their presence in the American heartland. The stone's detractors were quick to pounce. Linguists pointed to anomalies in the runes, arguing they mixed medieval and archaic forms in ways no genuine Norse inscription would. The phrase, "from Vinland," struck some as suspiciously convenient, echoing then popular theories about Viking exploration. Skeptics dismissed it as a hoax, perhaps crafted by Oman himself, a Swedish immigrant who might have relished the idea of tying his new homeland to his ancestral roots. Even the stone's discovery story seemed ripe for scrutiny. Oman claimed he'd found it while clearing land, but the tree under which it lay was only about 40 years old, raising questions about how a 600-year-old artifact ended up beneath such a young tree. Yet the stone's defenders fired back with compelling evidence of their own. Geologists who examined the weathering patterns in the inscription grooves concluded they were centuries old, far older than Oman's lifetime. The rock itself showed mineral deposits consistent with prolonged burial, and the rune's depth and wear matched what you'd expect from natural erosion over generations. Then there were the linguistic quirks that turned out to be unexpectedly authentic. Certain rune forms initially dismissed as mistakes were later found in obscure medieval Scandinavian manuscripts, unlikely to have been known by a 19th-century farmer. Even the stone's reference to skerries, small rocky islands, aligned with Minnesota's glacial geography, where such features dot the landscape. The implications of authenticity are staggering. If the Kensington runestone is genuine, it suggests Norse explorers didn't just briefly visit Canada's coast, they launched expeditions deep into the continent, possibly establishing trade routes or settlements far beyond Eland's Ox Meadows. The date 1362 is particularly tantalizing. It places the expedition just decades after the Black Death ravaged Europe, a time when Scandinavian kingdoms were struggling to maintain their far-flung outposts. Could a desperate group have sailed west in search of resources or refuge? Some researchers speculate the stone's mention of Goths might refer to Gotlanders, Baltic traders known to have partnered with Norse explorers, hinting at a network of transatlantic travel more extensive than we've ever documented. What makes the Kensington runestone so captivating isn't just the question of its origin. It's the way it embodies the tension between history and identity. For Scandinavian Americans, it's a tangible link to their heritage, a symbol of their ancestors' pioneering spirit. For academics, it's a puzzle that refuses to yield easy answers, a reminder that the past is often messier than textbooks allow. And for all of us, it's an invitation to wonder how many other fragments of forgotten journeys lie buried, waiting to rewrite the stories we tell ourselves about who discovered what and when. Whether hoax or historical record, the stone's real power might lie in its ability to keep us questioning, to remind us that history isn't set in stone even when the evidence literally is. Hidden deep in the jungles of Colombia, a collection of golden figurines has sparked debates that soar far beyond their small size. The Quimbaya artifacts, crafted by a pre-Columbian civilization between 400 and 1000 CE, are officially classified as stylized birds, insects, or even fish by mainstream archaeology. But hold one up to the light, tilt it just right, and something extraordinary emerges: the sleek, aerodynamic silhouette of a modern aircraft. With delta wings, stabilizers, and even what appear to be cockpit canopies, these tiny treasures don't just resemble flying machines. When scaled up and tested in wind tunnels, some models glide with surprising stability, their proportions matching principles of flight engineers wouldn't formalize until the 20th century. The precision is startling. One particular artifact, known as the Quimbaya jet, exhibits features no bird ever possessed: vertical tail fins, perfectly symmetrical wings with angled leading edges, and a fuselage-shaped body devoid of legs or beaks. In 1994, German aeronautical engineers constructed enlarged radio-controlled models based on these designs. To their astonishment, the replicas flew effortlessly, even performing maneuvers like banking and diving without modification. How could a culture with no knowledge of aerodynamics craft objects that perform like scaled-down aircraft? Skeptics argue the resemblance is coincidental, pointing to similar-looking seed pods or marine life in the region. Yet the artifact's creators left no written records, leaving their intent as mysterious as the objects themselves. Cultural context adds layers to the puzzle. The Quimbaya people were master goldsmiths, producing intricate jewelry and ceremonial items, but none matched the aircraft figurines' peculiar forms. Were these sacred objects representing shamanic visions of flight? Could they depict mythical creatures from oral traditions now lost to time? Some researchers propose a middle ground. Perhaps they're stylized representations of flying fish or stingrays, their flat bodies and wing-like fins exaggerated into something more mechanical looking by artistic convention. But then there's the unsettling counterpoint. Why would a culture that revered nature's forms strip away organic details in favor of sharp, geometric lines? The most controversial theory suggests the figurines document real technology, either from an advanced but vanished local civilization or, as fringe theorists claim, extraterrestrial visitors. Proponents highlight ancient myths from the region that speak of sky chariots and gods who traveled the heavens. Yet mainstream scholars caution against projecting modern ideas onto the past. After all, the human mind excels at finding familiar patterns, whether in clouds, rock formations, or golden artifacts. What makes the Quimbaya figurines so compelling isn't just the question of what they represent. It's the way they hover at the intersection of art, science, and the unknown. They challenge us to separate what we see from what we expect to see, to consider whether ancient artisans might have encoded observations or inspirations we've yet to fully grasp. Whether divine visions, natural abstractions, or something far more extraordinary, these golden enigmas remind us that history's creativity often outpaces our imagination, leaving behind riddles that refuse to stay grounded. The Wolfsegg iron sits quietly in a Salzburg museum, an unassuming cube that shouldn't exist. Discovered in 1885 by miners digging deep into Austrian coal seams, this fist-sized block of forged iron was encased in sediment dating back 20 million years, an era when Earth's most advanced life forms were early apes and giant sloths. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss as a peculiar geological oddity, but the moment you examine its sharp edges and near-perfect right angles, the questions start piling up. Nature rarely produces such geometric precision. So how did a handcrafted-looking object end up buried in deposits from a time before human hands, or even human ancestors, walked the planet? Initial tests only deepened the mystery. The cube's composition is primarily iron with traces of nickel and sulfur, a blend consistent with meteoric metal. This led some scientists to propose it was a rare iron-nickel meteorite, naturally shaped by cosmic forces. But meteorites don't typically form crisp cubes. They fracture unpredictably upon atmospheric entry, leaving jagged or pitted surfaces. The Wolfsegg iron's flat planes and defined edges look more like the product of deliberate tooling than celestial chance. Even stranger, one side bears what appears to be a shallow indentation, as if struck or worked by some form of tool. Did someone or something shape this metal long before recorded history? Theories range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some geologists suggest the cube could be a pyrite nodule, a mineral formation that sometimes crystallizes in box-like shapes. Yet pyrite is brittle and crumbles easily, while the Wolfsegg iron is solid and durable. Others propose it's a fragment of ancient mining equipment, perhaps dropped by 19th century workers and mistakenly thought to be embedded in coal. But the miners who found it insisted the surrounding coal layer was undisturbed, with no signs of modern intrusion. Then there's the more radical idea. Could it be a relic of a lost industrial civilization, one that rose and fell millions of years before Homo sapiens appeared? What makes the Wolfsegg iron so unsettling isn't just its unknown origin. It's the way it exposes the limits of our historical framework. We assume human progress is the only narrative that matters, but what if Earth's timeline holds other stories, ones we've barely begun to uncover? Whether a freak of geology, a visitor from space, or evidence of something far stranger, this unassuming cube forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The past might be far more unpredictable and far less exclusively ours than we've ever dared to imagine. In the dusty ruins of Al-Ubaid, an ancient settlement predating even the mighty Sumerian civilization, archaeologists uncovered something that defies easy explanation: a collection of terracotta figurines with unsettlingly reptilian features. Dating back to 5000 BC, these eerie statues depict humanoid bodies with elongated heads, almond-shaped slitted eyes, and unmistakably lizard-like faces. Some cradle infants, their scaled limbs curled protectively around tiny figures. Others stand poised in poses of authority, their clawed hands resting on what appear to be ceremonial staffs. The craftsmanship is undeniably deliberate, the details too precise to dismiss as artistic whim. So why would a culture that existed 7,000 years ago, long before written history, repeatedly sculpt beings that look like hybrids of humans and reptiles? One prevailing theory suggests these figurines represent deities or mythological creatures, symbols of fertility or protection. Snake worship was widespread in ancient Mesopotamia, with serpents often associated with healing and rebirth. The Al-Ubaid culture might have viewed reptilian traits as divine attributes, crafting these figures to honor gods who bridged the animal and human realms. Yet the statues' postures, some nursing, others seated as if in council, hint at something more unsettling. They don't resemble abstract idols, but rather portraits of a people, or perhaps a ruling class, remembered or imagined with chilling specificity. Then there's the more radical interpretation. Could the Al-Ubaid lizard men be evidence of genetic manipulation or extraterrestrial contact? Proponents of this idea point to the figurines' uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of reptilian humanoids, a recurring motif in global folklore from the Nagas of Hindu mythology to the dragon kings of Chinese legend. Even more provocative are the parallels to contemporary accounts of alien encounters, where witnesses describe beings with similar slit-pupilled eyes and elongated skulls. If these statues document real encounters, they'd suggest a phenomenon far older and more pervasive than we've ever acknowledged. But mainstream scholars urge caution. Without written records from the Al-Ubaid period, we're left to interpret these artifacts through the lens of later cultures, a risky proposition. Could the figurines simply be shamanic representations, depicting trance-induced visions or ritual costumes? Some indigenous traditions use animal imagery to symbolize altered states of consciousness, where the boundaries between human and creature blur. The Al-Ubaid artists might have been capturing such transcendent experiences, not literal beings. What makes the Al-Ubaid lizard men so compelling isn't just their strangeness, it's the way they force us to confront the limits of our understanding. 7 millennia ago, someone shaped these figures with care and intention, leaving behind a mystery that refuses to be solved. Whether gods, metaphors, or memories of something beyond our current grasp, they whisper a tantalizing question: how much of humanity's early story remains hidden in the clay, waiting to be unearthed? In the icy depths of the Baltic Sea, a sonar sweep in 2011 revealed something that defied all expectations. A massive, 60-meter-wide disk lying motionless on the seafloor, its surface etched with what appeared to be staircases and geometric patterns. Dubbed the Baltic Sea Anomaly, this strange formation wasn't just an oddity of geology. When divers descended to investigate, their equipment began behaving erratically. Cameras flickered, sonar devices malfunctioned, and compasses spun wildly as if caught in an invisible vortex. Some claimed their electronics only stabilized once they retreated hundreds of meters away. Was this the wreck of a sunken warship, a bizarre glacial formation, or evidence of something far older and far more inexplicable? The anomaly's physical features only deepen the intrigue. Side-scan sonar images show what look like straight lines and right angles, something nature rarely produces with such precision. The disk's surface appears to be covered in strange, almost architectural formations, including a series of stepped ledges that resemble a collapsed staircase or terraced platform. Even more perplexing are the reports of a mysterious circular depression at its center, as if something once rested there before being removed or perhaps launched. Geologists initially dismissed it as a glacial erratic, a boulder deposited by retreating ice sheets during the last ice age. But glacial erratics don't typically form perfect circles, nor do they come with stair-like protrusions and electromagnetic oddities. Then there's the composition. Core samples retrieved from the object revealed traces of metals not commonly found in natural rock formations, including manganese and limonite materials sometimes associated with ancient shipwrecks or corroded machinery. Some researchers have even suggested the structure could be a remnant of a secret Nazi experiment, given the Baltic's history as a testing ground for advanced German technology during World War II. But why would a wartime prototype, no matter how experimental, be lying at the bottom of the sea in such an unusual shape? And why would it still affect modern electronics decades later? The most tantalizing and controversial theory links the anomaly to ancient mythologies. Baltic folklore is rich with tales of sunken cities and celestial ships, stories that speak of fire from the heavens plunging into the sea. Could this structure be a physical remnant of those legends, a fragment of a lost civilization's technology, or even a crashed craft from beyond our world? Skeptics argue that pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar shapes in random patterns, is at play, turning a natural rock formation into something fantastical. But the divers' persistent claims of electromagnetic interference add a layer of complexity that's hard to dismiss. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the Baltic Sea anomaly isn't what we know, but what we don't. Despite multiple expeditions, no one has been able to definitively explain its origin. It sits there still, silent and enigmatic, a riddle wrapped in murky water and shifting sand. Whether a geological fluke, a forgotten relic of war, or something far more extraordinary, it challenges our understanding of history's boundaries and whispers the unnerving possibility that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, only pondered from a distance with a mix of awe and unease. Scattered across the misty highlands of Laos, the Plain of Jaws is a landscape that feels plucked from the pages of a forgotten legend. Thousands of massive stone jars, some towering over 9 feet tall and weighing several tons, lie clustered in fields and along hillsides as far as the eye can see. Carved from sandstone and granite between 500 BC and 500 CE, these enigmatic vessels seem to defy gravity and explanation. Their shapes vary from cylindrical to angular, some adorned with simple carvings, others left starkly plain. But the real mystery isn't just how they were made, it's why. Archaeologists have long grappled with the jar's purpose. The most widely accepted theory suggests they served as burial urns, holding human remains or cremated ashes. Excavations have uncovered bones, pottery fragments, and glass beads buried near or inside some jars, hinting at funerary rituals. Yet not all jars contain such remains, and their distribution, sometimes isolated, sometimes in dense groups, doesn't neatly match typical burial sites. Another possibility is that they were used for food storage, perhaps fermenting rice wine or preserving rainwater in a region with harsh, dry seasons. But their sheer size and the effort required to carve and transport them make this seem impractical for everyday use. Then there's the celestial angle. A few researchers note that certain jar clusters align with solstice sunrises or key stars, suggesting they might have functioned as astronomical markers or ritual spaces tied to seasonal cycles. This theory gains traction when considering local oral traditions, which speak of giants who once roamed the land. According to these stories, the jars were drinking vessels for these colossal beings, left behind after great feasts or battles. Could these myths preserve a distorted memory of the jar's creators, a people so skilled in stonework that later generations imagined them as superhuman? The logistics of the jar's construction only deepen the intrigue. Quarries for the stone lie miles away, meaning these multi-ton vessels were somehow hauled across rugged terrain without wheels or draft animals. Some show evidence of being hollowed out using fire and water, a technique where heated rock was doused to fracture it, then painstakingly chiseled. But why invest such effort? The answer might lie in the jar's cultural significance. In a region where animism and ancestor worship flourished, they could have been more than practical objects, perhaps thresholds between worlds, places where the living communed with spirits or the dead. Modern challenges add another layer to the mystery. Large areas of the plain remain unexplored due to unexploded ordnance from the Vietnam War, leaving countless jars untouched beneath dense vegetation. Each new survey reveals more, some buried up to their necks in soil, others cracked open by time or looters. The few artifacts found nearby, like bronze bracelets and iron tools, suggest connections to broader Southeast Asian trade networks, but no written records or carvings explain the jar's true role. Standing among these ancient sentinels, it's impossible not to feel the weight of their silence. They don't whisper their secrets. They demand we lean in, listen closer, and reconsider what we think we know about the past. Whether tombs, temples, or giants' goblets, they remind us that some histories aren't written in words, but in stone, waiting for the right questions to bring them back to life. Carved into the rugged sandstone walls of Australia's Brisbane Water National Park, a series of intricate hieroglyphs stare back at visitors with unsettling familiarity. These are the Gosford glyphs, over 300 Egyptian-style carvings etched into the rock, depicting everything from reed boats and ankh symbols to the names of pharaohs like Khufu and Djedefre. At first glance, they seem like an elaborate hoax, a modern artist's whimsical tribute to ancient Egypt. But look closer and the mystery deepens. The weathering on the glyphs, the way the sandstone has darkened and eroded around the carvings, suggests they've been exposed to the elements far longer than a few decades. If genuine, these markings could rewrite history, hinting at an Egyptian voyage to Australia thousands of years before European explorers ever set sail. The glyphs' content is as baffling as their location. Among the symbols are hieroglyphs spelling out the names of two 4th dynasty pharaohs Khufu, builder of the Great Pyramid, and his son Djedefre. There are also depictions of ships, some with broken masts, as if documenting a treacherous journey. Even more intriguing are the inscriptions that appear to tell a story. One section reads, "We came from the west to this land following the sun," while another laments, "Our boats were damaged and we could not return to Egypt." If authentic, these words would imply not just a fleeting visit, but a stranded expedition forced to make its mark on an alien shore. Mainstream Egyptologists dismiss the glyphs as a 20th century fabrication, pointing to inconsistencies in the hieroglyphic styles and grammar. They argue the carvings mix symbols from different periods in a way no ancient scribe would, suggesting a modern forger working from incomplete references. But proponents of the glyphs' authenticity counter with a compelling detail: patina. independent geologists who examined the site noted the carving's grooves exhibit weathering patterns consistent with centuries of exposure. The sandstone's oxidation layers, they claim, couldn't have formed in just a few generations. Even more puzzling, some glyphs are carved at heights that would have required scaffolding or ladders, an odd effort for a prankster working in isolation. The debate takes a fascinating turn when considering the broader context. Aboriginal oral traditions from the region speak of light-skinned strangers arriving by boat in the distant past, bringing with them unfamiliar tools and customs. Could these stories preserve a fragmented memory of Egyptian visitors? Maritime historians note that ancient Egyptian ships were capable of long-distance travel, with documented voyages to the land of Punt, likely modern-day Eritrea or Somalia, as early as 2500 BC. If they could sail the Red Sea, why not venture further? The prevailing currents and trade winds in the Indian Ocean could theoretically carry a vessel from East Africa to Australia's west coast, though no physical evidence of such a journey has been found elsewhere. Then there's the question of motive. Why would Egyptians brave such a perilous trip? Some theorists propose they were searching for new trade routes or precious materials like gold or aromatic resins. Others speculate the voyage might have been accidental, a ship blown off course, its survivors carving their story into stone as a last testament. The glyph's remote location, hidden in a secluded valley, adds to the enigma. If they're a modern hoax, why place them where few would see them? If ancient, were they meant to be found, or were they a private record, a message to gods or future generations? What makes the Gosford glyphs so captivating isn't just the possibility of transoceanic contact. It's the way they force us to confront the limits of our historical imagination. We're taught that ancient civilizations operated in isolation, their horizons bounded by geography and technology. But what if the past was more interconnected than we've dared to believe? Whether a clever forgery or a genuine artifact of a lost voyage, the glyphs challenge us to reconsider the boldness of our ancestors and the stories still waiting to be uncovered in the unlikeliest of places. Beneath the crumbling walls of Mohenjo-Daro, one of the great cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, a gruesome discovery lies frozen in time. Dozens of skeletons sprawl in the streets, their limbs twisted in agony, their bones fused together by a heat so intense it turned surrounding clay bricks to glass. These aren't the orderly burials of a city in decline, they're the aftermath of catastrophe, a snapshot of sudden, violent death. Forensic analysis reveals something even more unsettling. The pattern of damage matches the effects of thermal radiation, the kind produced by modern nuclear detonations. How could a 4,000-year-old metropolis bear wounds that look like Hiroshima? The parallels don't stop at the physical evidence. Ancient Hindu texts like the Mahabharata describe weapons of unimaginable power, divine arrows, that could burn cities to ashes and leave survivors with hair and nails falling out. One passage chillingly recounts a blast so bright it outshone 1,000 suns, followed by a whirlwind of smoke and flame that reduced everything to dust. These accounts, long dismissed as mythological exaggeration, take on new significance when placed beside Mohenjo-Daro's ruins. Could they be garbled memories of real events, passed down through generations until they faded into legend? Mainstream archaeology offers alternative explanations. Some scholars argue the skeletal damage could result from a catastrophic fire, perhaps during a sacking of the city. Others point to volcanic activity or even lightning strikes on concentrated deposits of flammable materials. But these theories struggle to account for the sheer scale of the destruction. Entire city blocks vitrified, with heat estimates exceeding 1,500 degrees Celsius. Natural fires rarely reach such extremes, and no volcanic deposits have been found in the region. Then there's the eerie absence of a clear attacker. Unlike other ancient cities destroyed by invasion, Mohenjo-Daro shows no signs of conventional warfare, no mass arrowheads, no evidence of siege engines. The devastation appears instantaneous, as if the city was struck from above by an unseen force. Some researchers speculate about meteoric airbursts, like the Tunguska event of 1908, where a celestial explosion flattened 800 square miles of Siberian forest. Yet even this falls short of explaining the localized city-scale damage and the text's unnervingly specific descriptions. What lingers in Mohenjo-Daro's ashes isn't just mystery, it's a profound challenge to our understanding of ancient technological capabilities. If a weapon caused this destruction, who wielded it? Was it the product of a lost civilization's scientific prowess, or something even more unfathomable? The ruins refuse to yield easy answers, standing instead as a silent warning. History's greatest secrets may not just be buried, they might be scorched into the very stones, waiting for us to recognize them. On the windswept shores of Easter Island, where the silent Moai statues stand guard over a vanished civilization, another mystery lingers, one carved not in stone but in wood. The Rongorongo tablets, a collection of wooden artifacts etched with intricate glyphs, represent perhaps the most tantalizing linguistic puzzle in the Pacific. Unlike the island's famous stone giants, these artifacts don't tower over the landscape, they fit in the palm of your hand, yet their small size belies their colossal significance. Here, in a region where oral tradition dominated, Rongorongo stands alone as the only potential native writing system in all of Polynesia. But what do these symbols say? And why has no one been able to read them for nearly 2 centuries? The glyphs themselves are a mesmerizing blend of the familiar and the alien. Some depict stylized birds, fish, and plants, echoing the natural world that sustained the Rapa Nui people. Others show geometric patterns or humanoid figures in poses that suggest ritual or myth. But what sets Rongorongo apart is its structure. The glyphs aren't arranged haphazardly. They flow in alternating lines, a writing technique called reverse boustrophedon, where the text zigzags like a plow turning at the end of a field. This deliberate organization hints at a sophisticated system, one that could record complex ideas, not just simple tallies or decorative motifs. When European missionaries arrived in the 1860s, they were stunned to discover these tablets. The islanders who still remembered the script called it Kohau Rongorongo, or lines for chanting, suggesting the glyphs might have been mnemonics for sacred recitations. But within decades, as disease and slavery decimated the population, the knowledge of how to read them vanished. Today, only 26 authentic tablets survive, scattered in museums from Berlin to Santiago. Each attempt to decipher them has hit the same wall without a living tradition or a bilingual Rosetta Stone. The symbols guard their secrets fiercely. Theories about Rongorongo's purpose are as varied as the glyphs themselves. Some researchers believe the tablets chronicle the island's history, perhaps even documenting the ecological collapse that felled its society. Could they contain warnings about deforestation, or records of the clans that once competed for dwindling resources? Others argue the script is purely ritual, encoding creation myths or genealogies of the gods. A few linguists have proposed radical connections, suggesting faint similarities to the Indus Valley script or even prehistoric Chinese characters, though these claims remain hotly disputed. What makes Rongorongo especially haunting is its timing. The script appears to have emerged in the 17th or 18th century, just as Easter Island's society was unraveling. Was it a desperate attempt to preserve knowledge as the world they knew crumbled, or did it contribute to their downfall, a cultural innovation that arrived too late to save them? The irony is crushing, a writing system that might explain the island's fate, rendered mute by the very catastrophe it sought to document. Modern technology has brought new hope. Computer algorithms designed to detect patterns in ancient scripts have analyzed Rongorongo's glyphs, identifying recurring sequences that could represent names or calendar dates. Some researchers even claim to have deciphered individual symbols. A glyph resembling a frigate bird might mean sky, while a palm-like sign could signify growth. But without context, these fragments are like overhearing whispers in a language you don't understand. You catch a word here or there, but the story remains out of reach. Perhaps the most poignant question isn't what Rongorongo says, but what its silence tells us. In a world where we take written communication for granted, these tablets are a humbling reminder of how fragile knowledge can be. They challenge our assumption that progress is inevitable, that civilizations leave clear records of their triumphs and failures. Sometimes the past speaks in riddles, not to frustrate us, but to remind us how much we still have to learn. The Rongorongo script may yet yield its secrets, but for now, it stands as a testament to the enduring mystery of Easter Island, a message carved in wood, waiting for the right mind to listen. The Tulli Papyrus sits at the crossroads of ancient history and modern controversy, a fragile scrap of mystery that could rewrite our understanding of humanity's encounters with the unexplained. Discovered in the archives of the Vatican Library in the 1930s, this enigmatic document allegedly dates back to the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III, around 1480 BCE. According to translations, it describes a spectacle so bizarre it defies conventional explanation. Circles of fire appearing in the sky over Egypt, moving unpredictably before vanishing into the heavens. The account continues with soldiers and scribes witnessing these luminous objects for days, their descriptions mirroring modern UFO reports with uncanny precision, formations changing direction, sudden accelerations, and an absence of any known earthly explanation. What makes the Tulli Papyrus so compelling isn't just its age, but the unsettling specificity of its details. Unlike vague mythological references to celestial chariots or gods descending on clouds, this text reads like a bureaucratic report, matter-of-factly recording an event that disrupted daily life. The scribe notes how the pharaoh himself ordered an investigation, with incense lit to appease the gods, a reaction that suggests genuine perplexity, not poetic embellishment. Even more striking are the parallels to 20th century UFO sightings, the objects' silent movements, their ability to hover and dart away, and the lingering, foul odor left in their wake, reminiscent of modern accounts of ionized air or ozone smells associated with close encounters. Yet the papyrus remains shrouded in skepticism. The original document has never been made public, and all analyzers rely on transcriptions from the 1930s by an Italian archaeologist named Alberto Tulli. Critics argue the text could be a mistranslation of symbolic language, perhaps describing atmospheric phenomena like ball lightning or meteors, later misinterpreted through a modern UFO lens. Some Egyptologists even question its authenticity outright, noting the lack of provenance and the Vatican's reluctance to produce the original. Without physical evidence, the Tulli Papyrus exists in a limbo between artifact and legend, its truth as elusive as the objects it describes. But dismissing it outright ignores a broader pattern. Across ancient cultures, from the Vimanas of Hindu texts to Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel, in the Bible, there are persistent accounts of aerial phenomena that defy technological context. Could the Tulli Papyrus be part of this global tapestry, a fragment of forgotten history hinting at something beyond our current understanding? Or is it merely a case of projection, where modern desires shape our interpretation of the past? The answer might lie in the middle. Ancient observers lacked the vocabulary for phenomena we now recognize: sundogs, plasma discharges, or even rare atmospheric reflections could appear miraculous to pre-scientific eyes. Yet the papyrus's clinical tone and the pharaoh's response suggest this was no ordinary weather event. Whether a record of extraterrestrial visitation, a misunderstood natural marvel, or an elaborate hoax, the Tulli Papyrus forces us to confront a humbling possibility: that the skies above our ancestors held mysteries we're only beginning to fathom. Its true significance isn't in proving aliens visited Egypt, it's in reminding us how much of history's strangeness still waits, unclassified, in the shadows of time. Nestled in the private collection of a Polish anthropologist lies an artifact that seems ripped straight from the pages of a sci-fi novel: the Longyou plate. This circular stone disc, reportedly discovered in a remote Nepalese cave, is etched with a mesmerizing spiral pattern radiating from its center. But what truly stops you in your tracks is the figure positioned along its edge. A slender, large-headed being with almond-shaped eyes, its elongated limbs and tapered fingers unmistakably resembling the gray aliens of modern UFO lore. The implications are staggering. Carbon dating suggests the disk could be 12,000 years old, a time when human civilizations were just emerging from the Ice Age. If genuine, this isn't just an artifact, it's a potential smoking gun, hinting at encounters with otherworldly beings long before the era of flying saucers and Roswell. The plate's design raises more questions than answers. The spiral motif, a recurring symbol in ancient cultures from Celtic knots to Hopi petroglyphs, might represent cosmic cycles or spiritual journeys. But paired with the alien-like figure, it takes on a new dimension. Some researchers propose the spiral depicts a vortex or portal, a celestial highway linking Earth to distant realms. Others suggest it's a map, an early attempt to chart the heavens, or even a schematic of a craft's propulsion system. The being's posture adds to the intrigue. It stands with one arm raised, as if gesturing toward the spiral, a pose that echoes ancient depictions of gods delivering knowledge to humanity. Could this be a record of contact, a warning, or a tribute to visitors from the stars? Skeptics, however, aren't convinced. The plate's provenance is murky at best. Unlike artifacts unearthed in controlled excavations, it surfaced through private channels, leaving no verifiable trail of discovery. Some experts argue the carving's crisp lines lack the weathering expected after millennia of burial, suggesting modern tools might have been used. Even the gray figure's resemblance to contemporary alien imagery feels suspiciously convenient, a case of pareidolia, where our brains impose familiar shapes on ambiguous patterns. After all, the modern gray archetype only became widespread after the 1950s. Could the plate be an elaborate hoax crafted to capitalize on UFO fascination? Yet the debate doesn't end there. Defenders of the plate's authenticity point to similar anomalies worldwide. The Wandjina petroglyphs of Australia, painted by Aboriginal peoples thousands of years ago, depict ethereal beings with oversized heads and hollow eyes strikingly close to grays. Then there are the Dogu figurines of ancient Japan, clay statues with slitted eyes and helmet-like heads, believed by some to represent shamanic visions or even space-suited visitors. If these disparate cultures independently recorded similar entities, does the Longyou plate fit into a broader, hidden narrative? Perhaps the most haunting possibility isn't about aliens at all, but about human memory. Ancient cultures often encoded profound observations in symbolic language. Could the plate's figure represent an ancestral memory of an advanced but vanished civilization, their knowledge so far beyond the norm that later generations mythologized them as otherworldly? Or is it a metaphorical depiction of consciousness itself, the spiral symbolizing the journey inward, the alien embodying the strange, luminous self we meet in dreams or trance states? For now, the Lolodov plate remains an enigma, its truth locked in stone. Whether a prehistoric encounter, an artistic metaphor, or an ingenious fake, it challenges us to reconsider how we interpret the past. Every line etched into its surface whispers the same tantalizing question. If this disk is genuine, what other secrets might be hidden in the earth, waiting for the right moment to resurface? Buried in the ruins of an Assyrian palace in modern-day Iraq, the Nimrod lens sits quietly in the British Museum's collection, a palm-sized oval of rock crystal that shouldn't be as controversial as it is. Discovered in 1850 by archaeologist Austin Henry Layard, this 3,000-year-old artifact looks unassuming at first glance, its surface slightly cloudy with age. But tilt it just right and the truth becomes clear. The lens is ground to a precise convex shape, capable of focusing sunlight into a bright pinpoint or magnifying small objects with startling clarity. For a civilization we associate with chariots and clay tablets, this level of optical sophistication seems impossible. Yet here it is, a tangible challenge to our assumptions about ancient innovation. The lens's craftsmanship raises immediate questions. Made from naturally occurring rock crystal, it would have required painstaking grinding and polishing to achieve its curvature, a process demanding both technical skill and an understanding of light's behavior. Assyrian artisans were renowned for their intricate seal carvings and ivory work, often involving details too fine for the naked eye to discern. Could the lens have been a magnifying aid, a tool slipped into the hands of jewelers or scribes to enhance their precision? Experiments with replicas confirm its practical utility. When held at the right distance, it can magnify up to 3 times, enough to transform a faint cuneiform stroke into a legible mark. But some researchers propose an even more radical purpose. The Assyrians were avid astronomers, meticulously recording celestial events like eclipses and planetary movements. Could the Nimrod lens have been part of an early telescope, mounted alongside reflective surfaces to observe the night sky? While no other components have been found, the idea isn't as far-fetched as it seems. Centuries later, the Vikings used similar sunstones for navigation, and Roman texts describe glass spheres filled with water to ignite fires. If these cultures stumbled upon basic optics, why not the Assyrians? The lens's slightly oval shape might even hint at deliberate design, compensating for the distortion caused by its material. Yet skeptics counter with a simpler explanation: ritual. The lens was found near a temple complex, amid objects believed to hold ceremonial significance. In an era where fire symbolized divine power, a crystal that could harness sunlight might have been viewed as magical, a priest's tool for kindling sacred flames or channeling solar energy during rituals. The lens's imperfections, they argue, undermine its practicality. Its focal point is uneven, and its magnification weak compared to later Roman or Islamic lenses. What makes the Nimrod lens so captivating isn't just the debate over its use. It's the way it forces us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient knowledge. We assume optics began with the Greeks, Aristotle's theories, Euclid's geometry, but this little crystal suggests the story might be richer, with discoveries lost and rediscovered across civilizations. Whether a craftsman's aid, an astronomer's tool, or a priest's relic, it stands as a quiet testament to humanity's relentless curiosity, a reminder that even in the dust of ruined palaces, there are glimmers of insight waiting to be brought back into the light. Deep in the heart of Mexico, buried beneath layers of volcanic soil and centuries of history, an artifact emerged that shattered conventional timelines. The Tekaxik head, a small terracotta sculpture barely 6 inches tall, shouldn't have been there. Unearthed in 1933 from a tomb dating to between 1400 and 1500 CE, this unassuming figure wears the unmistakable features of a classical Roman bust: a neatly trimmed beard, wavy hair styled in the fashion of 2nd century emperors, and a serene expression that wouldn't look out of place in the ruins of Pompeii. The problem: Rome fell 1,000 years before this tomb was sealed, and the Atlantic Ocean lay between them. How did a Roman artifact end up in a pre-Columbian burial site? The implications are staggering. If genuine, the head suggests transatlantic contact centuries before Columbus or even the Vikings. Carbon dating of associated materials places the tomb firmly within the Aztec period, yet the head's stylistic traits align with artifacts from the Severan dynasty of Rome around 200 CE. The terracotta shows weathering and mineral deposits consistent with prolonged burial, ruling out modern tampering. So how did it get there? One theory points to ancient trade networks far more extensive than we've imagined. The Roman Empire stretched from Britain to the Middle East, its merchants trading as far as India and possibly beyond. Could a Roman vessel have been blown off course, crossing the Atlantic to Mexico's shores? Historians note that Roman ships were capable of long voyages, and surviving texts like the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea reveal their fascination with distant lands. Alternatively, the head might have traveled indirectly past hand to hand across continents through intermediaries, a cultural curiosity winding its way from Rome to Persia, India, and eventually Mesoamerica over generations. Skeptics argue for a simpler explanation: colonial-era contamination. The tomb was excavated decades ago, and records from the time are spotty. Could the head have been accidentally or intentionally placed there by later hands? Yet the excavation team insisted the burial chamber was undisturbed, its contents sealed beneath layers of volcanic ash. Even more puzzling, similar, out-of-place artifacts have surfaced across the Americas, from Roman coins in Massachusetts to amphorae fragments in Brazilian waters. Isolated, they're curiosities. Together, they hint at a pattern we've yet to fully comprehend. The most tantalizing possibility is that the head reflects a forgotten voyage. Basque fishermen, Phoenician traders, or even lost Roman expeditions might have reached the New World long before recorded history acknowledges. Indigenous oral traditions from the Gulf Coast speak of bearded strangers arriving by boat in ancient times, while the Aztecs themselves revered Quetzalcoatl, a pale-skinned god who came from the east. Could these stories preserve fragmented memories of early transatlantic contact? What makes the Tekaxik head so electrifying isn't just its existence, it's the questions it forces us to confront. History isn't a fixed narrative but a puzzle with missing pieces, and this terracotta fragment might be one of them. Whether proof of Roman explorers, a testament to lost trade routes, or a riddle we've yet to solve, it reminds us that the past is far more interconnected and far more mysterious than we've ever dared to imagine. In the quiet town of Meredith, New Hampshire, a strange artifact surfaced in 1872 that still baffles historians today. Workers digging a fence post near Lake Winnipesaukee struck something hard beneath the soil, a dark, egg-shaped stone about the size of a fist, its surface covered in intricate carvings that seemed to whisper secrets from another time. The so-called Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone is no ordinary rock. One side bears a face with haunting, hollow eyes, while the other showcases symbols that defy easy categorization: a teepee, an ear of corn, a spiral, and markings resembling celestial bodies. But the real enigma lies in its craftsmanship. The stone is drilled with near-perfect cylindrical holes at both ends. their precision so exact that modern engineers speculate only a rotary tool could have achieved such smoothness, technology supposedly unavailable in pre-colonial America. Who created this oddity, and why? Theories collide like waves against the lakeshore. Some researchers point to the stone's alleged Celtic motifs, the spiral resembling those found in Irish megalithic art, the face evoking ancient European carvings. Could it be evidence of transatlantic contact long before Columbus, left behind by Norse explorers or even Bronze Age voyagers? Others argue for indigenous origins, noting the corn and teepee symbols align with Algonquian traditions. Local Abenaki tribes have oral histories of ceremonial objects, but none match the stone's peculiar blend of imagery. Then there's the wild card, a 19th century hoax. The stone's discoverer, a businessman named Seneca Ladd, was known for his curiosity cabinet, a collection of oddities. Might he have commissioned the piece as a conversation starter? Yet the stone's mineral composition tells a different story. Geologists confirm it's a type of quartzite weathered by centuries, if not millennia, of natural erosion. The holes deepen the mystery. Microscopic analysis reveals striations consistent with drilling, but the angles suggest the stone was worked from both ends simultaneously, a technique requiring remarkable foresight. Some speculate the holes served a practical purpose, perhaps threading the stone onto a staff as a ceremonial scepter or calendar device. Others imagine it as a treaty object, its symbols representing a pact between cultures. But without comparable artifacts or written records, the stone's true function remains locked in its silent, stony gaze. What lingers isn't just the question of origin, but the stone's eerie duality. It feels both ancient and oddly modern, as if it exists outside time. Whether a sacred relic, a lost traveler's token, or an elaborate ruse, it challenges our assumptions about the flow of ideas across continents. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone doesn't just resist explanation. It dares us to reconsider how much history might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right shovel to strike. In the quiet farmlands of China's Sichuan province, a discovery in 1986 shattered every assumption about ancient Chinese civilization. Farmers digging a clay pit stumbled upon a trove of artifacts so bizarre, so utterly unlike anything found before, that archaeologists initially questioned their authenticity. These were the Sanxingdui bronzes, a collection of towering statues, alien-like masks with bulging eyes and elongated features, and slender gold rods that seem plucked from a futuristic fantasy. Dating back to 1200 BC, these artifacts don't just defy categorization. They rewrite the narrative of Bronze Age China, hinting at a culture so distinct, so advanced, that its very existence feels like a whisper from a parallel history. The most striking of these relics are the masks, some small enough to hold in your palm, others stretching over 4 feet wide, their exaggerated features frozen in expressions that straddle the line between divine and grotesque. The largest masks boast protruding pupils like those of a reptile, with ears that flare outward like wings and mouths curled into cryptic half-smiles. These aren't mere decorations, they're portals to another worldview. Unlike the intricate but grounded artistry of the Shang dynasty, Sanxingdui's creations feel unearthly, as if the artisans were channeling visions from dreams or depicting beings not of this world. The gold rods only deepen the enigma. Some are thin as reeds, others as thick as a wrist, all polished to a mirror sheen. Were they ceremonial scepters? Tools for some forgotten technology, or antennae meant to commune with the cosmos? What makes Sanxingdui so revolutionary isn't just its strangeness, it's the absence of connection. This civilization flourished alongside the Shang, yet their art, rituals, and even metallurgy share no clear lineage. The bronzes were cast using a unique method, with thinner walls and higher tin content, producing a resonance that still rings clear 3,000 years later. Their iconography ignores the dragons and ancestral motifs central to Shang culture, favoring abstract spirals, solar discs, and those haunting, otherworldly faces. Even their urban planning bucks tradition. Sangsingdui's ruins reveal a city laid out in precise alignment with celestial patterns, its walls forming a near-perfect trapezoid oriented to the stars. Theories about this lost people abound. Some scholars propose they were the Shu kingdom, a semi-mythical realm mentioned in later texts but never before proven real. Others speculate they might have been a crossroads culture, blending influences from the Eurasian steppe, Southeast Asia, and even Mesopotamia. But the most tantalizing clue lies in their sudden disappearance. Around 1100 BC, Sangsingdui's artisans deliberately smashed their greatest treasures, burying them in pits before vanishing without a trace. Was this an act of ritual decommissioning, a response to invasion, or the desperate measure of a society fleeing catastrophe? The Sangsingdui bronzes don't just challenge our understanding of ancient China, they upend it. They force us to ask how many other civilizations might have risen, thrived, and vanished without leaving a trace in the histories we've written. Standing before these artifacts, you don't just see art, you feel the weight of a mystery that refuses to be solved, a reminder that the past is far stranger and far less settled than we've ever dared to imagine. Nestled in the forests near Visoko, Bosnia, a cluster of massive stone spheres has ignited fiery debates between archaeologists, geologists, and alternative history enthusiasts. These aren't just ordinary boulders, some weigh over 30 tons, with diameters stretching up to 5 feet. Their surfaces so unnaturally smooth and round they seem sculpted by giants. Known as the Bosnian stone balls, they first gained global attention in the early 21st century, when researcher Semir Osmanagic claimed they were evidence of an advanced ancient civilization, possibly dating back 1,500 years. But here's where the mystery tightens. Mainstream geologists insist these orbs are purely natural formations, the result of a rare geological process called concretion. So who's right, and why do these stones captivate us so deeply? The case for human craftsmanship hinges on their startling symmetry. Unlike typical rounded rocks shaped by rivers or glaciers, the Bosnian spheres exhibit near mathematical precision, with deviations of just a few centimeters in diameter, a level of consistency that feels intentional. Some are clustered in groups, their arrangement suggesting deliberate placement, perhaps as territorial markers or ritual objects. Osmanagic and his team point to similar man-made stone balls found in Costa Rica and Mexico, arguing that ancient cultures across the globe might have shared a symbolic or technological tradition lost to time. Even more intriguing, local legends speak of a time when the valleys were inhabited by a people who molded stone like clay, hinting at forgotten techniques for softening and shaping rock. Yet the geological counterargument is equally compelling. Concretion occurs when mineral cement precipitates around a core, gradually forming spherical shapes as layers build up over millennia. In Bosnia's case, the region's unique combination of seismic activity and mineral-rich groundwater could have created these orbs naturally. When scientists cut open similar stones elsewhere, they often find concentric layers like tree rings, evidence of slow, organic growth. The debate intensifies when examining the stone's composition. They're primarily made of granodiorite, an extremely hard rock that would have required Bronze Age tools far beyond what's been archaeologically documented in the area. What makes this mystery so gripping isn't just the question of origin, it's the collision between two ways of seeing the past. For some, the stones represent a lost chapter of human ingenuity. proof that ancient cultures achieved feats we've yet to fully understand. For others, they're a testament to nature's artistry, a reminder that the earth can craft wonders without human intervention. But perhaps the most fascinating detail lies in the middle ground. Even if the spheres are natural, their uncanny perfection might have inspired ancient peoples to venerate or repurpose them, weaving them into rituals or myths. After all, humans have always been drawn to the extraordinary in the landscape, from Uluru to Stonehenge. The Bosnian stone balls don't just sit in the dirt, they roll through our imaginations, challenging us to reconsider the boundaries between nature and craftsmanship. Whether products of geological serendipity or the handiwork of a forgotten culture, they remind us that the past is never as simple as it seems, and sometimes the most profound mysteries are the ones that refuse to be neatly solved. Beneath the fairy tale landscape of Cappadocia, where wind-carved rock formations tower like something from a dream, lies an entire hidden world, one that descends over 200 feet into the earth. The Derinkuyu underground city isn't just a few tunnels or chambers. It's a sprawling, multi-level metropolis capable of sheltering 20,000 people, complete with living quarters, stables, churches, and even wineries. Carved from soft volcanic rock over 2.5 millennia ago, this labyrinth defies everything we assume about ancient engineering. But here's what's truly staggering: it wasn't built haphazardly. Every corridor, every air shaft, every rolling stone door was meticulously planned with a sophistication that rivals modern urban design. Ventilation alone is a marvel. Without it, life underground would have been impossible. Imagine the stale air, the smoke from torches and cooking fires, the sheer weight of thousands breathing in confined spaces. Yet the builders of Derinkuyu engineered a system of over 50 ventilation shafts, some stretching all the way to the surface, creating a natural airflow that kept the city breathable even at its deepest levels. These weren't just random holes poked upward. They were strategically placed to harness pressure differentials, pulling fresh air down while expelling CO2, a principle still used in modern subterranean construction. Then there's defense. This wasn't just a refuge, it was a fortress designed for survival under siege. Narrow, twisting passages forced invaders to move single file, making them easy targets for defenders. Massive circular stone doors, some weighing over a ton, could be rolled into place to seal off entire sections like something out of a medieval castle, only centuries older. But perhaps the most ingenious feature was the wells. While they provided vital water access, they also doubled as emergency escape routes, connecting to other underground cities through hidden tunnels. If one entrance was breached, inhabitants could flee deeper or even resurface miles away. The scale of coordination required for such a project is almost incomprehensible. Derinkuyu wasn't carved by a handful of families digging basements. It was a communal effort spanning generations, with each level reflecting a deep understanding of geology, hydrology, and human needs. Who were the masterminds behind this subterranean marvel? Some credit the Phrygians, while others point to early Christians fleeing persecution. But what's undeniable is their legacy. A city built not to impress the heavens, but to defy them, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of uncertainty. Walking through Derinkuyu today, you can't help but feel the echoes of its past: the cool, still air, the grooves left by countless hands shaping the stone, the quiet genius of a design meant to protect and endure. It's a reminder that survival isn't just about strength. Sometimes it's about knowing how to hide, how to adapt, and how to carve a future from the very earth beneath your feet. Buried in the dusty outskirts of Lake Titicaca, the Fuente Magna bowl sits as one of the most perplexing artifacts ever unearthed in the Americas. This ordinary-looking ceramic vessel, discovered in the 1950s by a local farmer, would have been dismissed as just another pre-Columbian relic if not for the strange markings etched into its interior. Upon closer inspection, researchers realized they weren't looking at indigenous designs, but at something far more improbable: Sumerian cuneiform, the wedge-shaped script of ancient Mesopotamia, a civilization that flourished over 4,000 miles away. The inscriptions weren't mere doodles or coincidental scratches. They matched known Sumerian symbols for deities, fertility, and even a phrase resembling a dedication to the goddess Nisaba. Suddenly, a simple bowl became a smoking gun, forcing us to ask how writing from the cradle of civilization wound up in the heart of Bolivia. The implications are staggering. Sumerian cuneiform wasn't just a writing system, it was a complex, evolving language, one that required years of study even for native scribes. For it to appear in South America suggests more than accidental contact. It hints at a deliberate, sustained connection between worlds we've long assumed were separated by impassable oceans. The bowl's craftsmanship adds another layer of intrigue. Made from local materials yet bearing Mesopotamian motifs alongside indigenous patterns, it feels like a cultural hybrid, as if two distant societies met and exchanged more than just goods. Could Sumerian explorers have sailed across the Atlantic, or did their influence ripple indirectly through a chain of intermediaries? Skeptics argue the inscriptions might be pareidolia, random marks misinterpreted as writing. Yet linguists who have examined the bowl note the symbols align too closely with authentic cuneiform to dismiss outright. Even more compelling are the parallels between Sumerian and Andean myths. Both cultures venerated serpent deities, built ziggurat-like step pyramids, and told stories of great floods that purged humanity. These shared motifs could be coincidence or fragments of a forgotten dialogue between continents. Then there's the question of logistics. If Sumerians reached Bolivia, how their reed boats, though sturdy, weren't designed for open ocean voyages. But ancient maritime technology might have been more advanced than we think. Experimental archaeologists have proven that reed vessels like the Tigris could survive transatlantic journeys with the right currents. Alternatively, the bowl might be evidence of a broader network, a hidden trade route linking Mesopotamia to the Indus Valley, and from there, perhaps by island hopping across the Pacific. The Fuente Magna bowl doesn't just challenge history, it dares us to reimagine the audacity of ancient explorers. Whether proof of a lone voyage or a relic of lost global connections, it stands as a silent testament to humanity's restless curiosity, a reminder that the past's borders may have always been more porous than we assumed. And if cuneiform could cross oceans, what other surprises might still lie buried, waiting to rewrite the maps of history? High on the walls of the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, Egypt, a series of hieroglyphs seem to defy the boundaries of time. Among the traditional symbols of scarabs and pharaohs, there's something startling, a carving that looks unmistakably like a modern helicopter, complete with rotor blades and a tail fin. But that's not all. Nestled beside it are what appear to be futuristic aircraft, a submarine, a hovercraft, even something resembling a jet plane. These images, now famously dubbed the Abydos helicopter, have sparked debates that bridge archaeology and science fiction. How could ancient Egyptians living over 3,000 years ago depict technology that wouldn't exist for millennia? Egyptologists have a compelling explanation: palimpsest carving. This occurs when old hieroglyphs are plastered over and recarved, creating accidental overlays of symbols. Over centuries, erosion can wear away the layers, blending the old and new into a single, confusing image. In this case, the helicopter might be a collision of hieroglyphs, perhaps the remnants of a royal title like "He who repulses the 9 enemies of Egypt." where the original carvings were later modified and weathered into these bizarre shapes. It's a phenomenon seen elsewhere in Egypt, where time and human intervention conspire to create unintended visual puzzles, yet the precision of these shapes keeps alternative theories alive. The helicopter's outline is eerily complete with a cockpit, rotors, and even landing skids. The submarine bears a tubular hull and rudder, while the jet has delta wings and an exhaust trail. Could these be glimpses of lost knowledge, evidence that ancient Egyptians witnessed advanced technology or even possessed it themselves? Some researchers point to the Baghdad battery or the precision of the pyramids as part of a broader pattern, suggesting that our understanding of ancient innovation might be incomplete. The controversy deepens when examining the temple's history. Abydos was a sacred site dedicated to Osiris, god of the afterlife, a place where myths and reality might have blurred. Could these carvings represent symbolic vessels for the soul's journey, misinterpreted through modern eyes? Or are they, as some fringe theorists propose, records of extraterrestrial visitations preserved in stone by awestruck witnesses? What makes the Abydos helicopter so fascinating isn't just the question of its origin. It's the way it exposes how easily our assumptions can shape what we see. A palimpsest to one person is a time machine to another. Whether a quirk of erosion or a deliberate message, these carvings challenge us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the tantalizing possibility that history's greatest secrets might be hiding in plain sight, etched into the very walls we've studied for centuries. Deep in the mines of South Africa's Ottosdal region, miners have unearthed objects that seem to defy the very laws of time. Metallic spheres with uncannily precise grooves encircling their equators, buried in rock layers dating back an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years. These so-called Klerksdorp spheres vary in size from a marble to a baseball, their surfaces unnervingly smooth, their grooves so uniformly spaced they look machined. Yet they were found lodged in pyrophyllite deposits from a time when Earth's only life forms were single-celled microbes, a full 3 billion years before the first dinosaurs walked the planet. The sphere's composition only deepens the riddle. Made of hematite or wollastonite with traces of nickel and other metals, they exhibit a balance and symmetry that geology rarely produces unaided. Some are so perfectly weighted that they roll on their own when placed on a slight incline, as if engineered for motion. The grooves, often running in twin parallel lines around the circumference, show no signs of erosion or distortion. Odd for objects subjected to billions of years of tectonic shifts and mineral pressures. Even stranger, when researchers cut one open, they found the interior material was bizarrely fibrous, with a sponge-like structure unlike any known natural mineral formation. Mainstream science insists the spheres are natural concretions, mineral accumulations that form around a nucleus, like pearls in an oyster. Pyrophyllite, the rock they're embedded in, is known to weather in spherical patterns, and some geologists argue the grooves could be the result of crystalline growth or sedimentation. But this explanation struggles to account for the precision of the grooves or the sphere's metallic alloys, which typically require smelting or refining processes. Then there's the more provocative theory that these spheres are relics of a lost industrial civilization, one that thrived and vanished long before humans existed. Proponents point to the sphere's resemblance to ball bearings or gyroscopic components, suggesting they might be fragments of ancient machinery. If true, it would mean Earth's history isn't the linear march from simplicity to complexity we assume, but a cycle of rises and collapses, with advanced cultures emerging and disappearing like waves on a shore. What makes the Klerksdorp spheres so unsettling isn't just their age or their form. It's the way they force us to confront the limits of our understanding. Geology can explain much, but not everything, and in that gap, questions linger. Are these spheres nature's oddities, proof of a geological process we've yet to fully grasp? Or are they something far stranger, silent witnesses to a chapter of Earth's story we've barely begun to read? For now, they sit in museum cases and private collections, polished and enigmatic, daring us to reconsider not just the past, but the very nature of time itself. Whether natural wonders or manufactured artifacts, they remind us that our planet's history is far stranger and far less settled than any textbook could ever capture. Among the fragile parchment of the Dead Sea Scrolls, one artifact stands out not for its spiritual wisdom, but for its material and the tantalizing secrets it guards. The Copper Scroll, discovered in 1952 near the caves of Qumran, isn't inscribed with biblical texts or ancient hymns. Instead, it reads like a treasure map, listing 63 hiding places where unimaginable wealth, tons of silver and gold, was supposedly stashed across the Judean wilderness. What makes this scroll extraordinary isn't just its contents, but its very existence. While the other scrolls were penned on perishable parchment or papyrus, this one was etched onto thin sheets of copper, a deliberate choice that speaks volumes. Copper doesn't decay like organic materials, it endures. Whoever created this document didn't intend for it to fade into history. They meant for it to last until the moment someone followed its clues. The treasures described are staggering in scale. Precise quantities are given down to the talent, an ancient unit of weight equivalent to about 75 pounds. One entry mentions 65 bars of gold hidden in a cave. Another describes 70 talents of silver concealed beneath a staircase. If these amounts are accurate, the total haul would dwarf the riches of most ancient kingdoms, worth billions in today's currency. But here's the catch: not a single ingot from the Copper Scroll has ever been recovered. The locations, though described with geographic markers like valleys, cisterns, and ruins, are cryptically vague by modern standards. In the fortress that is in the Vale of Achor, one passage reads, or under the black stone at the entrance to the tomb of Zadok. These landmarks meant something 2,000 years ago, but their meanings have been swallowed by time. Scholars are divided on the scroll's origins. Some believe it documents the temple treasures of Jerusalem, hidden before the Roman destruction of 70 CE. The descriptions of priestly garments and ritual objects lend weight to this theory. Others argue it's a collection of communal wealth from the Essenes, the ascetic community often linked to the Dead Sea Scrolls. Then there's the more provocative idea that the treasure never existed at all. Could the Copper Scroll be an elaborate legend, a symbolic inventory of spiritual riches rather than physical ones? The metal's durability suggests otherwise. Why go to the expense and effort of engraving copper if the contents were mere allegory? Modern treasure hunters haven't given up. Expeditions armed with ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery have scoured the Judean desert, following the scroll's clues. In the 1960s, an archaeologist named John Allegro led a controversial hunt, digging near the ruined palace of Herodion based on the text's descriptions. His team found nothing but dust and disappointment. More recently, technological advances have revived interest, with researchers using 3D modeling to cross-reference ancient sites with the scroll's cryptic directions. Still, the land keeps its secrets. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't where the treasure is, but who left it and why they never returned. Wars, invasions, and massacres swept through the region in the centuries after the scroll was hidden. Did those who knew its secrets perish before they could retrieve their hoard? Or was the treasure found long ago by looters who left no record? The Copper Scroll refuses to yield answers. It sits in a museum in Jordan, its greenish surface still whispering of riches just out of reach, a reminder that some mysteries aren't buried in the earth, they're etched in metal, waiting for the right eyes to see what others couldn't. Buried beneath the sands of Iraq's Al-Ubaid archaeological site lies a collection of bones and artifacts so unsettling, they've sparked debates that blur the line between history and science fiction. The Al-Ubaid skeletons, dating back over 7,000 years to the pre-Sumerian era, aren't your typical ancient remains. Their skulls stretch unnaturally backward, elongated to a degree that defies simple explanations of ritual head binding, a practice seen in other cultures. But it's not just the bones that raise eyebrows. Alongside them, excavators uncovered terracotta figurines with chillingly reptilian features, slitted eyes, elongated heads, and postures that seem more serpentine than human. Together, they paint a picture of a civilization fixated on beings that don't fit neatly into our understanding of the ancient world. The elongation of the skulls is the first puzzle. While cultures like the Maya and the Paracas of Peru practiced cranial deformation using bindings, the Al-Ubaid skulls show structural differences that go beyond external shaping. Some researchers point to the pronounced occipital bones, the ridge at the back of the skull, which appear more pronounced than in bound skulls, suggesting possible genetic or congenital traits. Then there's the sheer prevalence of these remains. Unlike isolated cases of ritual deformation, the Al-Ubaid site reveals dozens of these skeletons, hinting at a population-wide phenomenon. Were they revered, feared, or simply a distinct group living alongside others? But the figurines steal the spotlight. These clay sculptures depict humanoid figures with tapered faces, almond-shaped eyes that slant upward, and shoulders hunched in a way that evokes reptilian posture. Some cradle infants with the same alien-like features, while others clutch objects resembling tools or weapons. The craftsmanship is deliberate, the details too precise to dismiss as artistic whimsy. What's striking is how these figures diverge from later Sumerian art, which glorified human-like gods and rulers. The Al-Ubaid artifacts feel like relics of an older, stranger belief system, one that venerated beings we can't easily categorize. Mainstream archaeology offers cautious explanations. The skulls might belong to an isolated ethnic group with unique physical traits, their appearance exaggerated in ritual art. The figurines could represent shamanic visions, symbolizing transformation or connection to animal spirits, a theme common in early spiritual practices. Yet the reptilian motif lingers in global mythology, from the serpent gods of Mesoamerica to the dragon-riding deities of East Asia. Could these artifacts be fragments of a shared ancestral memory, a cultural echo of something lost to time? Then there's the more provocative angle, the possibility of hybridization or extraterrestrial influence. Ancient astronaut theorists highlight the figurines' resemblance to modern descriptions of reptilian humanoids, suggesting they might document real encounters with non-human intelligences. While this idea sits far outside academic consensus, it's fueled by the sheer otherness of the Al-Ubaid finds. Even skeptics admit these artifacts don't slot neatly into known narratives. They're outliers whispering that the ancient Near East story might be more complex and more mysterious than we've assumed. What makes the Al-Ubaid skeletons and figurines so captivating isn't just their strangeness. It's the way they force us to confront the gaps in our knowledge. They don't just challenge what we think about Sumer's predecessors, they challenge how we define human in the ancient world. Whether ritual objects, symbolic art, or something far more enigmatic, they remind us that the past is never just one story. It's a mosaic of possibilities, some of which might still be waiting for us to piece them together. In the quiet halls of the University of Buckingham, A meteorite no larger than a softball holds a secret that could rewrite the story of life itself. Discovered in Sri Lanka in 2012, this unassuming space rock didn't just crash to Earth, it carried something inside. Embedded within its fractured surface, researchers found microscopic structures resembling fossilized algae, their delicate filaments frozen in time. If authentic, these fossils suggest life didn't just arise on our planet, it may have hitched a ride from the cosmos, a concept known as panspermia, but the implications are even wilder than they sound. This wouldn't just mean life exists elsewhere in the universe. It would mean life is hardier, more adaptable, and far more ancient than we've ever dared to imagine. The evidence lies in the details. Under electron microscopes, the meteorite's interior reveals tubular and filamentous structures strikingly similar to cyanobacteria found on Earth. Some filaments even appear segmented, with branching patterns that mirror terrestrial microbes. Chemical analysis adds another layer of intrigue. The meteorite contains organic compounds like polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, molecules often associated with biological processes. Most compelling of all, the rock's oxygen isotopes match those of rare carbonaceous chondrites, a meteorite type known to preserve primordial material from the solar system's birth. In other words, this isn't just a rock that picked up contamination on Earth. It's a relic from deep space, possibly older than our planet itself. Yet skepticism runs as deep as the excitement. Critics argue the fossils could be abiotic mineral formations, their lifelike shapes mere quirks of crystalline growth. Others point to the meteorite's contested trajectory. Without definitive proof it originated beyond Earth, the fossils could be earthly contaminants that seeped in after impact. Even the concept of panspermia divides the scientific community. While lab experiments show microbes like tardigrades can survive the vacuum of space, the leap to interstellar hitchhiking remains contentious. Could delicate organisms truly endure millions of years in the void, exposed to cosmic rays and extreme temperatures? The debate takes a fascinating turn when considering broader cosmic clues. In 2020, researchers detected phosphine gas in Venus's atmosphere, a compound often linked to microbial activity. Then there's the infamous Martian meteorite LH84001, which in 1996 sparked similar controversy with its worm-like structures. Each discovery feels like a piece of a puzzle we're only beginning to assemble. If life's building blocks are ubiquitous, as studies of interstellar amino acids suggest, perhaps Earth wasn't life's cradle, just one of its many homes. What makes the Sri Lanka meteorite so captivating isn't just the question of what it contains, but what it represents. This tiny rock challenges the very notion of life as a singular, earth-bound phenomenon. Whether its fossils prove to be cosmic pioneers or geological mirages, they force us to confront a humbling possibility that we might not be the universe's only children, just the ones who have begun to ask the question. And in that search, every speck of stardust becomes a potential messenger, whispering secrets from the void. Beneath the choppy surface of the Black Sea, just off the coast of Crimea, lies a silent ruin that time forgot. Discovered by marine archaeologists in 2006, this sunken settlement sprawls across nearly 10 acres, its stone walls and wooden structures eerily preserved in the oxygen-deprived depths. Known today as the Russian Atlantis, this city, or what remains of it, dates back 6,000 years, placing it in an era when human societies were just beginning to master agriculture and permanent settlements. Yet the sophistication of its layout suggests something extraordinary. A coastal civilization advanced enough to build flood-resistant structures long before the rise of Egypt or Mesopotamia. What makes this discovery so groundbreaking isn't just its age, but the clues it holds about humanity's relationship with the sea. The settlement's foundations were constructed atop a carefully leveled terrace, a deliberate choice to mitigate rising waters, proof that its inhabitants understood the threat of flooding. Tools found scattered among the ruins, from polished stone axes to intricately carved bone needles, reveal a culture skilled in both practical craftsmanship and artistic expression. But the most haunting detail, the remnants of a wooden palisade, its posts still standing like sentinels in the dark. This wasn't just a village, it was a fortified community designed to withstand both nature and human conflict. The timing of its submergence raises even bigger questions. Around 5,000 years ago, the Black Sea underwent a catastrophic transformation. Melting glaciers from the last ice age caused Mediterranean waters to breach the Bosphorus, flooding the basin with such force that the shoreline advanced by miles in a matter of years. Could this event be the kernel of truth behind flood myths like Noah's Ark or the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh? Survivors of the deluge would have carried their stories inland, passing down tales of a paradise lost beneath the waves. The parallels are uncanny: a thriving society, a sudden cataclysm, and a legacy preserved only in oral tradition. Yet the Russian Atlantis isn't just a relic of disaster. It's a testament to resilience. Unlike other submerged sites, which often appear abandoned in haste, this city shows signs of adaptation. Archaeologists have found evidence of raised walkways and elevated storage platforms, suggesting its people didn't just flee, they fought to stay, adjusting their world until the water won. That stubborn ingenuity forces us to reconsider the narrative of early humans as primitive or helpless. These were problem solvers, engineers of their own fate, who faced rising tides with creativity and grit. The implications ripple far beyond the Black Sea. If a society this advanced existed 6 millennia ago, how many others might have been swallowed by rising oceans? Coastal settlements are notoriously hard to trace. Their remains scattered or erased by shifting shorelines. The Russian Atlantis offers a rare glimpse into a world we've barely begun to explore, a reminder that history's lost chapters might not be lost forever, just waiting, like this sunken city, for the right moment to resurface. Whether it inspired ancient myths or simply vanished without a trace, its silent stones challenge us to rethink the scale and sophistication of humanity's earliest coastal dreams. Deep in the Siberian wilderness, where the taiga forest gives way to rocky outcrops and permafrost, lies a geological oddity so perplexing it's earned the nickname the Fire Eagle's Nest. The Patomsky crater, a near-perfect conical depression stretching 160 feet across, rises abruptly from the landscape like a crater within a crater, its steep 40-foot walls encircling a peculiar central mound. Discovered in 1949 by geologist Vadim Kolpakov, this formation defies easy explanation. It's not the result of a meteorite impact, nor does it match any known volcanic structure. Instead, it sits in eerie silence, a riddle carved into the earth, daring scientists and adventurers alike to unravel its origins. Theories about the crater's formation range from the plausible to the extraordinary. Geologists initially suspected it might be a collapsed gas pocket or the remnants of an ancient magma chamber, but the central mound complicates this idea. Unlike typical volcanic features, it's composed of shattered limestone blocks, as if some force from below thrust them upward. Then there's the radioactivity. Surveys reveal elevated uranium levels in the area, fueling speculation that a natural nuclear fission event, similar to the prehistoric Oklo reactors in Africa, might have caused a subterranean explosion. Imagine the heat and pressure required to fracture bedrock into such a precise shape, leaving behind a structure that looks almost engineered. But the wildest theories lie beyond conventional science. Local Yakut legends speak of a cursed place where the ground trembles and strange lights flicker in the sky. Some researchers point to the crater's uncanny resemblance to the aftermath of a directed energy weapon, a scar left by something far beyond human technology. Could this be the impact site of a crashed extraterrestrial craft, its energy source destabilizing the Earth beneath it? The absence of debris is a stumbling block, yet the crater's sheer isolation means evidence might still lie buried under centuries of sediment. The most compelling clues, however, come from the trees themselves. Dendrochronology, the study of tree rings, reveals a startling anomaly. The surrounding forest shows accelerated growth rates in the mid-19th century, as if bathed in sudden, intense radiation. This aligns with indigenous accounts of a great fire in the Earth around that time, suggesting the crater formed in a single, catastrophic event. But what could generate such energy without leaving a trace of molten rock or meteoritic material? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between geology and legend. The Patamsky crater doesn't fit neatly into any textbook category, and that's what makes it so fascinating. Whether a freak geological phenomenon, a nuclear accident millennia ahead of its time, or something even more unfathomable, it stands as a reminder that our planet still holds pockets of mystery where science and myth collide. And until someone drills past the fractured limestone into whatever lies beneath, the fire eagle's nest will keep its secrets whispering to us from the frozen heart of Siberia. Deep in the vaults of Sweden's National Library, a monstrous book looms, its cracked leather binding barely containing the weight of its own legend. The Codex Gigas, better known as the Devil's Bible, isn't just the largest surviving medieval manuscript in the world. It's a relic wrapped in whispers of the supernatural, a tome so steeped in dark folklore that even its physical heft feels ominous. Weighing as much as a small adult and requiring 2 people to lift, this 13th century behemoth contains a complete Latin Bible, historical texts, medical formulas, and exorcism rites, all penned in a single, unnervingly consistent hand. But it's the infamous full-page illustration of the devil himself, crouched alone on a stark parchment spread, that fuels the most chilling question: could this book truly be the product of a pact with hell? The origin story reads like a Gothic parable. According to legend, a Benedictine monk named Herman the Recluse broke his monastic vows and was sentenced to be walled alive. In desperation, he promised to write the world's most comprehensive book in a single night, a feat impossible without divine intervention, or something far darker. As midnight passed, the monk supposedly called upon Lucifer to finish the work, trading his soul for salvation. The devil's portrait, glaring from page 290, serves as a macabre signature. Skeptics dismiss this as medieval sensationalism, but unsettling details linger. Spectral analysis reveals the entire text was indeed written by one scribe, with no detectable variations in ink or pen pressure, as if produced in an unnaturally short span. Even stranger, 8 pages near the center were meticulously cut out, their contents lost. Were they too blasphemous to preserve? Then there's the devil's portrait itself, a masterpiece of psychological terror. Unlike typical medieval depictions of Satan as a monstrous hybrid, this rendering is almost elegant. A clawed, green-skinned figure with unnaturally long fingers, framed by an empty crimson cloak. His eyes seem to follow the viewer, a trick of perspective that wouldn't be scientifically understood for centuries. Historians note the page's vellum is slightly darker than the rest, as if stained by something beyond mere ink. For monks of the era, this wasn't just art, it was a warning. The illustration faces a page describing heavenly Jerusalem, creating a deliberate visual duel between salvation and damnation, a theme echoed in the book's very construction. Modern science offers rational explanations. The uniform handwriting could indicate a scribe working under extreme duress, perhaps as self-punishment for a grave sin. The missing pages might have contained sensitive political records later censored, but folklore clings stubbornly. After the book changed hands during the 30 Years' War, its new owner, Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf Roman II, reportedly fell into madness. Subsequent keepers allegedly suffered misfortunes, fueling belief in a curse. Even today, librarians note visitors who refuse to view the original, fearing its reputed power. Perhaps the true horror lies not in demons but in human obsession. The Devil's Bible reflects our timeless urge to explain the extraordinary through the supernatural. Its monstrous size becomes a metaphor for the weight of guilt. Its missing pages the gaps in our own understanding of history. Whether a monk's desperate bargain or a masterpiece of medieval endurance, this book endures as a mirror, one that shows us how easily belief can blur into fear and how the unknown will always haunt the edges of the known. Nestled among the treasures of Colombia's Gold Museum in Bogotá, a tiny artifact no larger than a paperclip sparks one of archaeology's most heated debates. The so-called Baghdad aircraft, a golden figurine from the Ptolemy culture, looks like it was plucked straight from a modern aviation blueprint, with its swept-back delta wings, vertical stabilizers, and even what appears to be a cockpit canopy. This 2,000-year-old trinket mirrors the silhouette of a supersonic jet centuries before the Wright brothers left the ground. At first glance, it's tempting to dismiss the resemblance as coincidence, perhaps a stylized insect or bird, subjects common in pre-Columbian art, but the details defy simple explanation. When aerospace engineers examined the figurine's proportions, they made a startling discovery. Its wing geometry aligns with principles of subsonic flight, the kind that allows modern aircraft to minimize drag and maximize lift. Wind tunnel tests with scale models confirmed the design's aerodynamic stability. It glides effortlessly when launched, a feat impossible with random shapes. Even more perplexing are the figurine's tail fins, positioned at angles that serve no decorative purpose but would be critical for stabilizing high-speed flight. How could artisans working in the first millennium have stumbled upon such precise engineering? Skeptics propose the artifact represents a flying fish or a barracuda, creatures native to Colombia's Magdalena River. The Ptolemy people, after all, were masterful naturalists capturing the essence of local fauna in gold. Yet the figurine lacks key biological features: no scales, no gills, no eyes. Its smooth, geometric lines feel deliberately mechanical, as if modeled after something constructed rather than born. Others suggest it might depict a shaman's vision, a symbolic fusion of bird and human forms meant to represent spiritual ascension. But why would a spiritual symbol require such precise aerodynamic functionality? Then there's the more provocative theory that the Ptolemy encountered or inherited knowledge from a culture familiar with advanced technology. Ancient astronaut theorists point to similar artifacts worldwide, like the Egyptian helicopter hieroglyphs or the Indian Vimana texts describing flying machines. Could the Baghdad aircraft be a scaled-down replica of something grander, a memory of flight preserved in gold? The Ptolemy left no written records, leaving us to speculate. What's undeniable is the figurine's power to ignite curiosity. Whether a testament to lost innovation, a divine inspiration, or simply an artist's lucky guess, it challenges our assumptions about the trajectory of human ingenuity. In a world where we assume progress moves in a straight line, the Baghdad aircraft whispers a tantalizing alternative, that the skies of antiquity might have held wonders we're only beginning to imagine. These relics aren't just oddities gathering dust in museum cases, they're whispers from the edges of history, daring us to reconsider everything we thought we knew. Each artifact we've explored, from the precision-cut gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the eerie reptilian figurines of Al-Ubaid, chips away at the tidy timelines we've constructed. They suggest a past that's less like a straight line and more like a tangled web, full of detours and dead ends, of civilizations that soared to heights we can barely comprehend before vanishing without a trace. Think about it, the Baghdad battery hints at ancient electricity, while the Sacara bird glides through wind tunnels like a modern aircraft. The Piri Reis map charts continents it shouldn't know, and the Dropa stones murmur stories of star-bound visitors. These aren't isolated coincidences, they're threads in a tapestry we're only beginning to unravel. And the most thrilling part, this isn't fantasy. These objects exist. They've been measured, carbon-dated, scrutinized. Their very materiality forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. How many advanced cultures rose and fell without leaving a trace? How many discoveries were lost to war, disaster, or the slow erosion of time? But here's what's truly electrifying. We're living in a golden age of rediscovery. Ground-penetrating radar peels back layers of soil to reveal buried cities. AI deciphers scripts that have baffled scholars for centuries. Every year, new technologies pull another piece of the puzzle from the Earth or the ocean or even the stars. Who's to say the next breakthrough won't come from your backyard or a forgotten attic or a cave yet unexplored? The past isn't dead. It's hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right curious mind to connect the dots. So stay skeptical, but stay open. Question the official narratives, but demand evidence. Celebrate the mysteries, but chase the truth. Because history isn't a closed book, it's a living conversation. And every one of these relics is a voice chiming in from the shadows. What they're saying might just change everything. The only question left is this: are you listening? Drop your wildest theories in the comments, hit subscribe, and let's keep digging. The next revelation could be just one shovel stroke.